Hokage I can fully level up with one click. Chapter 461 to 480. Chapter 461 _ Have you been struck by lightning? Puff. The endless golden light gathered, and as soon as the figure of the yellow monkey appeared, the awe-inspiring sonic boom from the right foot was almost endless. The speed is so fast that people can feel that the attack has already arrived in front of Chinyu. However, in the face of this violent blow, the warm smile on Chinyu's face became brighter and brighter. In the outside world, the attack that seemed to be as fast as lightning was reflected on the 3-tomo Sharingan, but was slowed down several times. Feeling the rushing wind, the crackling thunder arc sounded on Chinyu's body. Raiden Thunder Style Chakra Mode. Boom. The thunder light was like a tide, and at the moment of the skyrocketing, Chinyu was like a ghost and disappeared in the first place. The speed is so fast that it is no slower than the attack of the yellow monkey. Whether it was the surrounding navy soldiers or Shiryu of the rain, even Kizaru's pupils shrank suddenly. It was too late to take back the attack of the right leg that the force split out. However, before he could react, an unexpected and playful voice fell in their ears. I said, Kyabu, have you ever tried to be struck by lightning? Got struck by lightning. Kizaru's expression was stagnant. Just now, he was relying on the unparalleled speed of the glitter fruit, intending to severely injure or knock Chinyu into the air with one blow, in order to cut his spirit. So, I didn't even think about turning on observation haki. At the moment, Chinyu is using it, which is not inferior to him at all, and it is even more like a thunder-like method. This undoubtedly made Kizaru's nerves tense to ultimate. Before I could think about it, I quickly moved observation haki to ultimate, and instantly captured Chinyu's location. Kizaru could react. At the moment when Chinyu's pair of 3-tomo Sharingan spun frantically, the thunder light all over his body poured into his right hand like a raging wave. Without any bells and whistles, the 5 fingers suddenly merged, and the moment they turned into hand knives, they slashed down towards the yellow monkey below. Raiden Thunder Style Thunderstorm. PFF'd. Attacked together, as fast as lightning. The hand knife slashed down suddenly, and the speed was so fast that even the air could not react, and it was torn into a wave-like posture. The distance so close at hand makes it impossible to hide. The violent scene made Kizaru's pupils shrunk suddenly, but as a natural devil fruit person, he still has the means of pressing the bottom of the box. Elementalized. Kizaru roared, and Madara, the endless light on his body, quickly lit up. In his eyes, it only took half a breath to be able to break it into pieces, perfectly avoiding this blow. It's a pity that this idea just sprouted in his mind, and the next moment, the hand knife wrapped in thunderlight has already taken the lead and smashed heavily on his elemental body. The means that could have ignored all ordinary attacks, but at this moment, seemed pale and powerless. It even made Huang Yuan unable to believe that at this critical moment, a sense of powerlessness emerged in his body. Boom. The dull thunder-like cracking sound has the taste of going straight to the sky in the sky. The endless thunder splashes, and the impact of the airwaves formed makes the battleship underfoot simply unbearable. The body of the yellow ape, in the elementalization, directly showed its body, like a comet, and slammed on the deck. With the sound of a thunderous explosion, the battleship, which was dozens of meters long, broke off at the waist. Kizaru's body, like a depth bomb, plunged straight into the sea. Boom. The endless waves rolled up, and the violent thunder and lightning, like electric snakes, quickly swam away on the sea surface. One after another, the Sea Kings gathered in the sea area with a radius of several thousand meters were attacked by strong thunder in an instant, and they let out a fierce cry and fainted directly in the sea. The violent scene shook the Navy soldiers on the surrounding battleships. After stabilizing his body in the wind and waves, he looked at Chinyu who landed on another battleship with disbelief. With one blow, the General Kizaru, one of the three strongest naval forces, was split into the sea. If you don't see it with your own eyes, who wants to believe that all this is true? Okay, now, are you diving, or do you want me to help? The thunder on Qin Yu's body dissipated instantly. It is not known how long the next voyage will last. Whether it was dealing with chasing troops or other pirates, just to deter Shiliu of the Rain, who was on the same ship, required Qin Yu to have some reservations. This time, he didn't make a move. As soon as he made a move, he used the Heilu stone fists that came from Kuduru to sink the yellow monkey into the sea, in order to knock the mountain and shake the tiger. We dance by ourselves. Seeing that even the dignified general couldn't withstand a blow, the naval soldiers on the battleship, the few remaining fighting spirits disappeared in an instant, and they all fell into the water. As for the battleships around, they obviously lost the courage to intercept them. For a time, the huge coastline seemed inexplicably dead. Feeling the changing atmosphere of the scene, Qin Yu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose and said, "Boatman, if you don't set off soon, do you want to regret it?" Shiliu of the Rain's expression froze, but after meeting Qin Yu's bloody weird eyes, he silently took out a cigar from the inner pocket of his suit and lit himself in shock. Immediately, under the watchful eyes of the public, he went straight to the cab to set sail. Watching the dignified advance of Chinda prison, the second-in-command was reduced to acting as a boatman. The naval soldiers stationed at the scene, in addition to being shocked, silently watched Qin Yu and the two leave. Pushing into the city university prison, Magellan turned gloomy and rushed out from the 6th floor. The impact just now penetrated directly to the 6th floor, affecting several prisons, causing a commotion. However, being imprisoned in the 6th floor infinite hell all the year round, his strength has been weakened infinitely. After Magellan took some effort, he suppressed them. However, the final loss has not been counted, but he was restless, and after he blocked the entrance and exit with endless poison, he hurried back. Gollum, urgent notice, urgent notice. The voice of the phone bug rang suddenly. Magellan had a gloomy face, and quickly connected. What happened? Where did she stay? Hurry up and let him come back to me. In the face of this sudden farce and the blow that ran through the city grand prison, Magellan's head became hot and Shiliu of the Rain was removed from his sight. After calming down now, the more I think about it, the more I can't calm down. Warden Magellan, something is wrong. After the skeleton demon escaped from the prison, he snatched a battleship and was stopped by the General Kizaru who arrived. Kazuna is here. Magellan's expression was stagnant, and then he showed a hint of joy. Let him stay alive, I want to know, what is his origin? In Magellan's eyes, no matter how powerful Uchiha Qin Yu's methods are, he is faced with the golden monkey who possesses the shining fruit and is known as the three major naval forces. Must be within reach. However, this idea had just emerged, and the answer that fell in his ear shook Magellan's nerves. General Kizaru was hit by the great skeleton demon and sank into the sea. Now I ask the warden to send a manpower to search and rescue immediately. Chapter 462-Unexpected Destination. One shot down. The happy look on Magellan's face suddenly stiffened, and it was even more unbelievable. In his eyes, Qin Yu's strength is very good, especially the fall from the sky, the power is even more fierce. But Magellan was confident that if he hadn't underestimated the enemy at first, Qin Yu's fall from the sky would never have hit him hard, and he wouldn't have been able to escape this big underwater prison. However, the messenger now told him that even the admiral of the navy had been knocked down in one move. The gap between the front and the back is too huge. Shiliu. Where is Shiliu? He is not a devil fruit person. Let him go to the rescue. Don't let Kizaru have an accident, otherwise the old man Sengoku will never give up easily. Magellan hurriedly spoke. He is also a devil fruit capable person, but he clearly knows that the sea is their forbidden place. No matter how powerful Kizaru is, once it falls into the sea, it will be a dead end. Moreover, as the naval headquarters, one of the top 3 major forces, if he lost his life because he came to support the advanced city, Magellan could not escape accountability. After all, if there is an existence with the strength of a general, one less is one. However, these thoughts just flashed in Magellan's mind, and the words that fell in his ears broke his nerves. Hey, the head guard of Shiryu, he was invited by the great skeleton demon to be a boatman and escaped together. The intermittent voice made Magellan's expression suddenly distorted. If this phone bug was not made of gold, it would have been crushed by him already. You bastard, bastard. Shiryu, I will definitely kill you. Magellan roared again and again. At this moment, he only had one type of meat buns beating dogs, and there was a feeling of suffocation that he would never return. Warden Magellan, what's next? A hesitant question came from the phone bug. After so many years, it was the first time that they saw Magellan furious. After all, the damage to the advanced city was even greater than when the Golden Lion escaped 15 years ago. Let Hannibal go. As for the Navy headquarters, I will report it myself. Magellan hung up the golden phone bug after dropping a series of orders, and now his head is still a little swollen. However, facing Lien Shiryu's escape, which made him even more impatient, he quickly turned around and returned to the 6th floor, and walked towards the damaged area. Wherever it is in the heartland, the prisoners in custody are of great importance when placed outside. For Magellan, he must see people in life, and he must see corpses in death, otherwise he will not even sleep well. A day later, Chinyu opened his closed eyes, looked at the unusually quiet cabin, and frowned slightly. After going through many battles in Pushing City, his physical strength was also insignificant, so after handing over the helm to Shiryu of the Rain, he entered the cabin to rest. Although Chinyu knew very well that Shiryu of the Rain had a lot of thoughts, but after unlocking the power of the body and adding the character template Bone King, Chinyu really hoped that Shiryu of the Rain would jump around once or twice, so that he could find an excuse to guide him. Look at his direction as a man. However, according to the current hull shaking less, I am afraid that the Navy's battleships are not in a running state. Start, character template Ains OOAL Gong. Ding dong, congratulations on the fidelity of the host character template, which has increased to 35%. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, get the 3rd level magic, group healing. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, get the 3rd level undead magic, negative explosion. The ethereal voices of the system sounded one after another, causing Chinyu to raise his brows. Group healing is originally a 3rd level magic, which can display large-scale magic healing damage. Of course, this is only limited to cases where the injury does not exceed 40%. The negative burst is the Bone King's own undead talent magic, which originally belonged to the 6th order magic. Detonate its powerful undead magic in an instant, forming a dome-like shock wave. In the original work, even a group of Tier 6 summoned battle angels can instantly become slag. Now in Chinyu's hands, because of his proficiency, his power is obviously only half. Of course, as Chinyu's proficiency in the Bone King's pretense increases, the power he can exert will gradually increase. However, after the battle with Huang Yuan, Chinyu's primary purpose was to learn the 3-color domineering as soon as possible. And Shiryu of the Rain, as the second in command to advance the city university prison, is obviously a good choice. Portal. Chinyu snapped his fingers with his right hand, and the magic power emerged, tearing out a space light gate, and immediately strode forward. Of Ain's hour gong that was in the hands of the Bone King in the original book. It was made of 7 painfully struggling snakes, each holding gems of different colors in their mouths. Although Chinyu can't get it now, in order to improve the fidelity of the character template, he really needs to get one himself. At the moment when his thoughts flashed, all the scenery in front of Chinyu's eyes changed. Looking at the empty cockpit, the deep-set skeleton eyes and the flickering soul flames suddenly soared. Second-level magic, detection of the living beings. When the magic circle suddenly lit up. As a low-level perception magic, Chinyu was able to accurately detect all the lives in a radius of 1,000 meters. 10 meters. 50 meters. 100 meters. As the distance of exploration expanded, Chinyu's brows furrowed even tighter. In this battleship, there was no trace of Shiryu of rain at all. It seems that while he was resting, he secretly abandoned the boat and escaped. However, the only thing that disappointed Chinyu was that this guy didn't make a fool of himself, otherwise he wouldn't mind being beaten up and then coerced to teach him a little more aggressively. There are human reactions. There are quite a few. The soul flame in Chinyu's eyes suddenly rose. After the detection magic reached a range of 500 or 600 meters, he could clearly feel the reactions of dozens of humans, groping for go here. Moreover, according to their trajectory, the battleship is obviously approaching the shore, otherwise Shiryu of the Rain would not have abandoned the ship in the windless zone so easily. Although Chinyu didn't want to cause trouble for the time being, he didn't know how to drive a naval battleship without Shiryu of the Rain. The only thing I can do is to see who doesn't have eyes, and temporarily bring someone to act as a boatman. However, before Chinyu could make a move, a loud shout came from outside the boat. Navy, please come out and surrender quickly, otherwise, if you trespass on 9 Snake Island, we will shoot you to death with random arrows. Chapter 463_Make Me Happy. Navy, you disregarded your conditions, our Empress Hancock, and trespassed on our 9 Snake Island without authorization. Please come out and surrender now, or don't blame us for disregarding the so-called Chihuahua Treaty. On the coast, dozens of female warriors from the 9 Snakes rushed out, pulling out the hard bows on their backs with their backhands, pulling them into a full moon, and the arrows above were quickly covered by the pitch-black armament hockey. In the original work, Luffy was taken by the Big Bear of Chihuahua, who specially photographed this man's paradise country where he practiced domineering. The leader is a little older, painted Yuhi mouth Yuhi, and painted with demonic purple eyeshadow, the leader of the 9 Snake Protector of the Nation, Kikyo. Immediately behind her were Margarita with short blonde hair, Afi Landora with brown hair, and others. As one of the thousands selected, the most basic warriors selected from the 9 Snakes are armed in observation hockey. However, with the passage of time, there was still no answer in the battleship, which made the head of Kikyo's face suddenly gloomy. Sister Kikyo, there seems to be only one navy inside, Margaret said first. One person. Kikyo was stunned at first, then suddenly raised it and shouted sharply, whether he is 1 person or 100 people, since ignoring our warning, attack me immediately. Fill the arrows. The awe-inspiring roar fell, and the stiff bow that was pulled into the full moon instantly released. Armament hockey blasted towards the battleship with an awe-inspiring sound of breaking through the air. The speed is fast and the power is strong. With the blessing of armament hockey, if a hit hits, it is several points stronger than the power of a musket, and it can penetrate even thick rock slabs, not to mention the mere ship deck. Dozens of people volley. This battleship will definitely become a hornet's nest. Secondary magic triple shield. The cold voice suddenly sounded in the cab, and the 3 layers of masks of different colors were instantly opened, blocking the feather arrows falling from the sky. Accompanied by the sound of the rain hitting the bananas, it came out one after another. The first layer, the second layer, and the third layer of shields shattered one by one like a spider web mirror, and finally collapsed in the void. As for the offensive that was attacking from the sky, under this blocking, the formidable power it possessed was also inexhaustible, and they were all nailed to the ship. The sudden scene made the expressions of the 9 Snake warriors stagnate for a while. When they saw the figure walking out slowly, their expressions changed drastically. This is not a human being, it is a huge skeleton. Go and inform Lord Hancock that some people from the Navy have broken into our 9 Snakes Island. Margaret exclaimed anxiously. They had a lot of guesses about this uninvited guest, but they never thought that the result would be so shocking. Don't panic, our attack just now seems to be ineffective, but his strange defense method has also been penetrated. This enemy is not an existence that we can't deal with. Kikyo's face sank, and he shouted angrily. As the protector of the 9 snakes, if we have to trouble the Lord Hancock with any trivial matter, what kind of decency is it? Speaking of which, Kikyo's eyes turned in vain, looking at the hideous skeleton face, and shouted sharply, "Everyone obey the order, follow me to shoot this navy." Yes. The awe-inspiring words came out, and with the unanimous answer, they gathered into the sky-high fighting intent. As the female warriors of 9 Snake Island, under the leadership of Hancock, they obviously made them fanatical about this island country. It can be said that as long as Hancock asks them to die, no one will frown, and at the same time, they will shout slogans such as the Wise Lady of the Empress. Now, facing Chin-Yu, the long-lost offender, has obviously become an opportunity for them to express themselves. "You said mine was the Navy." Chin-Yu stopped on the deck. Looking at the estuary, the huge 9 Snake landmark building, Chin-Yu was also surprised that he came to this place by accident. Although, knowing that Shiryu of the Rain was playing tricks, he deliberately threw the boat here, causing him to arouse the hostility of the 9 snakes. But if you really want to say, where is the best place to learn to use domineering, then 9 Snake Island is obviously the best choice. Otherwise, in the original book, the big bear would not have been so well-intentioned and photographed Luffy in this place. However, these female warriors of the 9 snakes are now eyeing the tigers with murderous aura. To gain an equal right to dialogue, Chin-Yu still needs to use some small means. "You said, am I a navy?" Chin-Yu said suddenly, his deep-set eyes, the burning soul flame, suddenly rose and swept across the female warriors of 9 snakes. The next moment, the awe-inspiring cold voice that came out shook everyone's nerves. "Wrong, I am the great ruler of the great tomb of Nazareth, Ains Ul Gown." "Wait, pointing at me with this toy, is it trying to please myself?" Having said that, Chin-Yu's eyes finally settled on Kikyo, and he said sharply, "In this case, why don't you please let me unilaterally be happy, that will at least save you a small life." The inexplicable words made Kikyo and the others startled. Looking at Chin-Yu's cold and indifferent attitude, facing dozens of sharp arrows without any fear, Kikyo's face turned gloomy, and he shouted in a cold voice, "Okay, very good, I'll see, how about you, let me be happy one-sidedly." Quote, "Dare to despise, our 9 snakes protector of the country, whether you are a navy or not, or a so-called grave man, will also shoot into a hornet's nest. Shoot the arrows." The roars sounded one after another, and at the end, the hard bow in Kikyo's hands collapsed first. Bang bang bang. Dozens of sharp arrows covered by armament hockey turned into a black rain and headed towards Chin-Yu. Watching this scene, Chin-Yu grabbed his right hand slightly in the void, only to realize that he still lacked a scepter, and felt that he had lost a touch of the Emperor's style. After a brief absence, he looked up at the sharp arrows that fell from the sky and covered the ground, shook his head and said, "It seems that you are still out of skill to please me. Then make me one-sidedly happy." The awe-inspiring voice fell, and the violent undead magic power dormant in Chin-Yu's body surged like a frenzy. When the huge magic formation under his feet suddenly unfolded, and before everyone could react in the next moment, the arrow feathers that descended 2 or 3 meters in front of Chin-Yu showed a slight stagnation. The next moment, it burst and broke. Negative burst. The awe-inspiring words, the simple 4 words were spit out, suddenly lifted up, in the deep-set eyes, under the flames of the burning soul. The dark undead magic power exploded like a frenzy, turning into a semicircular shield and blasting away. Bang bang bang. The feather arrows that attacked from the sky shattered in response to the negative explosion. The distance of 100 meters is only approaching in the blink of an eye. Before Kikyo and the others could react, the jet-black energy slammed into them with a tenacious posture. Chapter 464 _ Hancock. Boom. The thunderous explosion resounded through half of Nine Snake Island, and the huge impact directly overturned dozens of Nine Snake Island female soldiers. Where the negative burst passed, the rocks and trees along the way were torn to shreds in an instant like paper. A range of hundreds of meters in a radius is shrouded in it. This blow, compared with the Shinra Tensei Almighty Push sign in Hokage, is only a bit lacking in attack power and range. On the whole, it still feels like the same song. However, the impact of the negative burst came and went quickly, but it disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. After the sand and dust in the sky returned to calm, Kangyi was all over the land, and only the female warriors of Nine Snakes Island were left. Although the injuries on their bodies are mainly abrasions, the negative burst is an enhanced version of the negative contact of the Bone King's innate magical powers. In addition to the shock, there is also magic paralysis. It can be said that the current Nine Snake warriors can move all over their bodies, except for their eyes. A huge number of people can't even move their lower fingers. You, who are you? We are the protector of the Nine Snakes. You dare to hurt us. Once Lord Hancock finds out, you will surely die. Kikyo, as the protector of the country, is obviously stronger and stronger. Maybe it was a negative burst, but he was still able to barely support his body, staring at Chinyu with shame and anger. Hee, I didn't expect you to stand up. You are indeed the captain of the protectorate. Chinyu chuckled softly. Seeing as you make me happy, I won't kill you, but I need some information. And you, captain of the protectorate, may have a hard mouth, so I can only use some small means of torture. Second level magic, the Hand of the Vines. Chinyu snapped his fingers, and 4 dazzling magic circles lit up under Margaret and the others who were lying on the ground. Before they could react, the vines quickly burst out of the ground, directly binding their plump bodies. Of course, I don't know if it's because of the Bone King's original wicked thinking, Chinyu let her show where it should be exposed. That bulge and back, but the perfect photo. The female fighters who used to call themselves fighters saw this scene, and Yuhi's cheeks suddenly became ashamed. You, what are you doing? We are the protector of the Nine Snake Island. Even if we die, we won't say a word. Kikyo was also among the 4. As the captain of protecting the country, the degree of stubbornness is obviously the same as Chinyu's guess. Hee, don't worry, as the supreme ruler of the Nazarick necropolis, Ains our gong, will do what I say. If you please me, I will never kill you. Chinyu Lengbingbing he smiled and said, however, if you don't answer the truth about what I want to know, then the punishment will be indispensable. Tell me if Hancock is on Nine Snakes now. Chinyu's voice suddenly became cold, his deep-set eyes, and the flames of his soul soared, with a fascinating taste, and he went straight to Kikyo. The moment the 4 eyes met, Kikyo's expression suddenly became dazed. As an archmage of the undead, even if he does not cast magic, he has the ability to shock his mind by his words and deeds. Caught off guard, Kikyo said clearly. Yuhi parted his lips slightly, and said, Lord Hancock, now. You bastard, Sister Kikyo, don't tell me, even if we die, we won't betray the secrets of the Nine Snakes. Margaret hurriedly exclaimed, causing the absent Kikyo to wake up. Looking at this scene, the soul flame in Chinyu's eyes suddenly returned to normal, and he looked around the field coldly and said, it seems that as the supreme being, I am still too kind. Second level magic countless vine tentacles. Dang dang. The sound of the magic circle lighting up sounded one after another. One by one mysterious magic circles lit up under each female warrior of the Nine Snakes. Before they could react, they were instantly tied into dumplings. You, what are you going to do? Kikyo's complexion changed suddenly. They were still able to be tough just a moment ago, but they watched all of them fall into Qin Yu's hands instantly. It was a shame for them to be tied up in such a humiliating manner. What am I going to do? Qin Yu swept his eyes with soul flames over each of the 9 snake female warriors, and said, of course it's to punish you. If you don't answer, then you have to fight. The words fell, Qin Yu's pale skeleton finger picked up, and the vine tentacles tied to them crazily entangled, turning into a big human hand. Before Kikyo and the others could react, he threw them on their ass. Snapped. The crisp slaps sounded in unison, and the rigidity of the body was twisted restlessly. It seemed to make the big vine hand even crazier. Without any bells and whistles, one after another, the scene turned into a passionate symphony in an instant. Ah, you rascal, dare to hit us, hurry up and let us go, otherwise Lord Hancock will never let you go. Kikyo's cheeks were congested, she bit Yuhi's lips tightly, and hurriedly twisted her body, intending to break free. However, this vine tentacle can break free unless it can explode with great force in an instant. Otherwise, the more you struggle, the stronger the restraint will gradually tighten. Looking at the 9-snake female warrior who was still stubborn, Qin Yu shook his head helplessly, and said coldly, "It seems that I am still too kind. If this can't make you speak, then let me see your stubbornness, and my means, who is tougher." Vine tentacles. The awe-inspiring words came out in a hurry, and vines shot one after another, and at this moment, it seemed to explode and grow wildly. Dozens, hundreds of numbers, densely packed. If they are really thrown down, the consequences will probably be extremely sour. Witnessing this scene, the female warrior of the 9 snakes, ashamed Yuhi's cheeks, turned pale all of a sudden. If this is over, I am afraid that it will have to change from a girl to a woman. However, before they could react, 2 huge black shadows, like tigers and leopards, rushed out of the jungle behind them. The speed is so fast that there are only afterimages left along the way. Snake dance. Snake. 2 icy screams sounded, and the afterimages slid past the crowd entwined with vines like a snake. Wherever he passed, the sharp blade of cold light that fluttered in his hand, like a flexible poisonous snake, cut off the vines tied to his body directly. In a short period of 7 or 8 breaths, when a group of female warriors protecting the country reacted, 2 huge snake-like bodies stopped in front of them. There is another one, surrounded by the crowd, sprinkled with petals, standing on a huge poisonous snake, and a tall and flat figure swam quickly out of the dense forest. If Qin Yu remembers correctly, this woman is probably the ruler of 9 Snake Island, known as the Empress, Boyahan Cook. Chapter 465 _ It's Lord Hancock, she's finally here. I didn't expect Lord Hancock to become more and more beautiful. With Lord Hancock's shot, he will be able to take this hateful guy easily. God, I'm going to faint, I can't hold it every time. The strange cry of a nympho rang out one after another, which made Qin Yu suddenly interested. The deep-set eyes, the jumping soul flame, turned in vain and landed on Hancock's body. It has to be said that the Empress, who was 1.91 meters tall, under the fluffy cloak and the long skirt with deep slits, still can't hide her proud figure. The waist is over 100, the waist is 60, and the lower body is 90. Coupled with the slender, snow-white, long legs like suet and white jade, it simply gives people a feeling of excitement. Rao was the soul flame in Qin Yu's eyes, and he jumped slightly, as if he was heartbroken. However, as soon as these emotional fluctuations appeared, they were eliminated by the Bone King's own skills and negative emotions. It's really ugly. You dare to spread wildness on your concubine's territory. Did your navy forget the Chihuahua Treaty we signed? The poisonous snake at Hancock's feet stopped after more than 10 meters from the coast. With the feather fan in his hand, he said proudly with his pretty face half covered. Lord Hancock, it's so domineering, I'm in love with it. God, if I could kneel and lick in front of Lord Hancock's feet, I would too. Come on, let's all stand up. Don't lose the face of Lord Hancock, or we won't even have the chance to love. The voice of the nympho, wave after wave, can be called a symphony of madness. Looking at some of the country protectors whose eyes had turned into hearts, Chin-yu became more and more calm. He knew that this was probably the sweet fruit that Hancock possessed, with its own charm. You Navy, why don't you talk? Since you don't have a long memory and ignore the contract made by your concubine, then die for me. Hancock's face sank, obviously ignoring Chin-yu and feeling rude. The back waist turned over, showing a difficult 90-degree, and when the right foot was lifted, half of the beautiful leg was exposed, and a cold and arrogant voice came out rashly. In this world, no matter what you have done, the world will forgive you, your ignorance and arrogance, then repent in the stone. Sweet and sweet. Hancock folded his hands together in a gesture of love, and the pink girl's rays of light bloomed, and the sky suddenly turned pink. Dang dang. The pink peach hearts filled the sky, spanning tens of meters, and shot directly towards Chin-yu's body. The speed was so fast, it arrived in the blink of an eye. However, before they could be happy, the pink peach heart, like rain hitting a plantain, hit the steel plate, and was directly thrown out. Seeing the violent scene, all the female warriors protecting the country, and even the 3 Hancock sisters, were also stunned. In their eyes, no matter who the other party is, as long as there is a shock in their hearts, they will definitely turn into petrified. Haha, it seems that your methods are as fancy as your appearance, but for the deity, it seems to be of no use at all. Chin-yu laughed dryly. As an undead archmage, the Bone King has the ability to be immune to mental attacks, and at the same time, the trace of restlessness that appeared just now was also eliminated by the negative emotions of the skill. It can be said that in the face of petrification of sweet fruits, Chin-yu has no effect at all. What an arrogant person, I have to see today. What kind of confidence do you have to dare to run wild on Nine Snake Island? Hancock's pretty face sank, and the moment he got up with a drink. The second finger was a little on Yuhi's lips, and Yuhi's peach heart mark quickly emerged, and the index finger was a little on the peach heart, turning into a pistol posture. Kiss the gun. Bang bang bang. The moment the index finger pointed at Chin-yu, the pink peach heart burst out like a bullet. Facing this scene, in Chin-yu's deep-set eyes, the flame of his soul soared, and the crackling thunder light exploded like a frenzy. The next moment, with the help of the Bone King's body, Chin-yu instantly entered the Raiden Thunder-style chakra mode. However, this power borrowed across the ontology and character templates can only support a minute or two. Just in this situation, everything is enough. Boom. The big foot of the skull suddenly stepped on, and Chin-yu disappeared in place like a thunderlight. The incoming peach heart strafing smashed the hull deck of the battleship in an instant, and it failed directly. Seeing this violent scene, the expressions of Sonia and Marigold suddenly changed, and they shouted anxiously, "Sister, be careful behind your back." Fragrant feet. As a first-time powerhouse on Nine Snakes Island, Hancock not only understands three-color domineering, but also hones it to ultimate. Without any bells and whistles, when he turned over, his slender right foot swept straight behind him like a long whip. Iron. Boom. A thunderous collision sound resounded suddenly. The splashing thunder light ripped apart the surrounding rock formations, even some trees were cut off by the waist, and a large amount of sand was thrown up. Snake dance. Flame zombie. Witnessing this scene, Sonia and Marigold suddenly became violent. The two control the animal system at the same time, the snake and snake fruit ability, of which Sonia is a python person, and Marie Goruder is a cobra person. As soon as the huge and ugly body unfolded, the hair on his head instantly transformed into dozens or hundreds of poisonous snakes. Without the slightest hesitation, he attacked Chin-yu in the air. When the two made their move, it was obvious that they formed an airtight encirclement and completely blocked Chin-yu's retreat, which was enough to show that they had rich combat experience. Originally, I planned to be gentle and have a good talk with you, but now it seems that it is better to put soldiers first, then courtesy and then benevolence. Chinyu sighed helplessly. The moment the voice fell, the flame of the soul suddenly soared, and under the watchful eyes of everyone, his hands clasped together. Under the frenzied thunderlight and the backlog of crazy gathering, without any fancy, it slammed down towards the ground below. Recurrent violence. Boom. A thunderous explosion resounded. The backlog of violent power instantly poured down, and splashed away with a tenacious posture. The ground centered on Chinyu collapsed in an instant. The three Hancock sisters, who were close at hand, bore the brunt of being swallowed up by the endless lightning. The resulting shock wave quickly spread around. Bang bang bang. The rewinding thunderlight rolled and swept the entire coast, and the female warrior who was protecting the country was also swallowed up before she could let out a scream. After a full 7 or 8 seconds, the thunderlight from the sky dissipated, and Chinyu was still standing in the deep pit with the attitude of the Bone King. In the huge battle circle, with the exception of Hancock, who was standing 7 or 8 meters away with half bent over in a little embarrassment, the two younger sisters were also attacked by surprise and fell directly to the ground, with wisps of black smoke on their bodies. As for the female warriors who were farther away, they were obviously not so dizzy, and fell into a coma. Chapter 466-Painless and Painless Treatment. You bastard, you dare to do such a ruthless attack on your concubine, I'm going to kill you. Hancock's pretty face turned cold, and he planned to storm Chinyu again. However, before she could make a move, Sonia and Marigold, who had fallen to the ground, suddenly stood up. However, what Hancock saw was not their bravery. On the contrary, the clothes on the body that had been nearly burst due to the transformation, were obviously burned under the heavy current. With a slight movement, it tore apart like a piece of paper, revealing a huge back. The violent scene made Hancock's face turn pale. For her, there is nothing more humiliating than a secret that has been kept for more than 10 years. Sonia, Mary, the clothes behind you, Hancock exclaimed anxiously, forgetting to attack. The violent attacks of Sonia and Marigold were stagnant at first, and the next moment did not wait for them to react, due to the excessive movement. The clothes on his body were torn apart in response, and the imprint of the flying dragon's hoof, which was originally concealed by them, symbolizing the dragon's hoof belonging to the Tianlong people, appeared in front of Chinyu's eyes. Hancock, what happened? We are here to support you. Lord Hancock, here we come. Who is it that dares to disturb Lord Hancock? Bathe and change clothes, he will be cursed by Gorgon and become a fossil. One after another, shouts of reverence came from all directions in the jungle. The dense footsteps, and the increasing number of people in observation Hoki's perception, made Hancock panic all of a sudden. As a dignified pirate queen, at this moment, she was at a loss like a little girl. No, this secret can't be discovered. What should I do? What should I do? Hancock was anxious. Now, she not only has to worry about how to help Sonia and Marigold hide the secrets on their backs. More still, how to prevent Chinyu from telling this secret. After seeing Chinyu's strange and unusual methods with his own eyes, Hancock had no confidence that he could stop Chinyu's mouth in a short period of time. Sister is here, Sonia exclaimed anxiously. The three of them turned their eyes together, and locked on the mother-in-law who came out of the jungle first. The moment she looked flustered, they heard a faint sigh. Oh, although I also have shame and don't like being too explicit, but I'm still too kind. Chinyu shook his head, and immediately threw the demon parasitic cloak behind him with his backhand. Split. Puff. The parasitic cloak of the demon world was lifted away from Chinyu's body immediately, losing the wrapping of the cloak. Chinyu's current posture was simply a piece of cloth with no strands all over his body, and his appearance was too blatant. However, As soon as the demon world's parasitic cloak floated in midair, it suddenly made a sound of torn cloth and suddenly split into two parts. Under the astonished eyes of the three Hancock sisters, they entangled Sonia and Marigold. This scene fell into the eyes of the grandmother, although she didn't know what happened, but she instantly smelled something unusual. The crutches in his hand slammed down towards the ground and shouted coldly, "You all go back, Hancock is meeting the distinguished guests." As soon as these words fell, those noisy footsteps also stopped. Seeing this scene, the three Hancock sisters breathed a sigh of relief. The mother-in-law also breathed a sigh of relief. After looking at the three of Hancock, when her eyes fell on Chin-Yu, her pupils shrank slightly and said, "Devil fruit ability, is it the Navy?" "Navy." Chin-Yu returned to his senses, shook his head with a smile, and said, "Ha, misunderstood me, we are all pirates, but when we came, we snatched a warship. Originally, I just came here by accident, but looking at them, I just thought of a good deal." Listening to the first half of the speech made Hancock and others look slightly changed, but the second half made their nerves suddenly tense. Hancock was the first to lose his temper and said, "You arrogant, your concubine is so beautiful, you will be forgiven no matter what, and we have no plan to let you leave alive." Although, Chin-Yu had just helped Sonia and Marie Groud to cover up the marks of the heavenly dragons on their backs. But it doesn't mean that Hancock is willing to let those who know this secret leave alive. At the same time, not to mention, Chin-Yu intends to use this mark to trade with them. "Hancock, don't be impulsive," Grandma Yi exclaimed anxiously and said, "Looking at your tone, you should also be a young man. Since you know this secret, why can't it be rotten in your heart?" "It's rotten in my heart." Chin-Yu laughed dryly, and said, "Whoever said I was going to threaten me didn't have the slightest patience. Listen to me and finish what I said. If, I can help you to permanently remove the slave imprint of the Tianlong people, but the premise is that you must teach me the method of three-color domineering practice." With the one-key full-level system on the main body, Chin-Yu clearly knew that in order to gain a foothold in this world, the most basic thing is to be a domineering master. Otherwise, if you encounter a natural devil fruit person, it is often unilaterally abused. What did you say?" Hancock couldn't hold back first. It can be said that the slave mark of the Tianlong people is like an invisible big hand, clenching their hearts tightly. Even sleeping at night, outside Hancock's palace, there are guards on the inside and outside, and two younger sisters are required to guard the gate. With such a strict line of defense, Hancock was afraid that if he fell asleep, the secret on his back would be discovered. "When I was young, I couldn't find a suitable doctor, and after I became famous, I didn't want anyone to see the mark on my back." Most importantly, for Hancock, once the slave mark is forcibly removed, the beautiful back like suet and white jade will leave ugly scars. This is absolutely not allowed. After all, to a certain extent, the ability to exert the sweet fruit also requires extreme self-confidence in one's own beauty, reaching the level of self-confidence, before it can be fully exerted. If you have a pimple in your heart, keep thinking about an ugly scar on your back. Under the display of the ability of the sweet fruit, I am afraid that it will be greatly reduced. Don't worry, the means I have are painless and traceless treatments. In order to express my sincerity, let me show you my confidence first." Chin-Yu laughed dryly, obviously guessing Hanku Graham's idea. Eyes turned in vain, and fell on the female warriors who were lying on the ground in a coma, and snapped her fingers with her right hand. Level 3 Magic, Group Healing. Chapter 467_Deal Struck. Level 3 Magic Group Healing. When the sound of the magic circle unfolding suddenly echoed, the blue light quickly bloomed under Chin-Yu's feet. The next moment, the magic power that surged out instantly exploded, turning into a light Jinchuriki column and rushing up to the 9 heavens. Before Hancock and the others could react, the blue magic instantly turned into a smoky drizzle, drifting down against the sea breeze. Looking at this strange scene, Hancock and the others were startled at first. However, when they reacted, the scattered blue drizzle made them feel like they were bathed in warm izumi. The comfortable feeling was as crisp and numb. The numbness and stinging pain caused by the battle just now disappeared quickly. The most unbelievable thing is that even Granny Za's pale old face, like dry bark, has gradually turned into Yuhi's blood. It made them even more embarrassed to face this sudden comfortable feeling. There are also many female warriors who protect the country, shouting shameful voices. Just that Fei Yuhi just appeared on their faces, and the female warriors who were in a coma woke up one after another, and at the same time, the injuries on her body healed quickly. That miraculous gesture did not even leave the slightest scar. What the hell is going on here? The scars on my face are gone. Gosh, the blood on my chest is gone too. No, Madara is gone from my face. The exclamations one after another echoed in the field. Looking at the female national protector who had fallen into a coma, she suddenly regained her vitality. Hancock's pupils shrank slightly. Hee, this is my sincerity, you don't have to rush to decide, or arrange a place for me first, I don't mind. Chinyu laughed dryly, the soul flame in his eyes turned in vain and met Hancock. The sudden remark made a group of female warriors who were still immersed in surprises suddenly react. The head of Kikyo's face sank, he waved his hand, and shouted, "Everyone obeys the order, surrounds this madman, and assists Lord Hancock to take action." Yes. A group of female warriors protecting the country have not yet figured out the situation in front of them. However, when it comes to Hancock, in their admiration, everything needs no reason. However, before they could act, the crutches clenched in the hands of the grandmother on the side suddenly stomped on the ground and said, "Stop, before Hancock has made a decision, no one should act rashly. Why don't we monitor him first? Speaking of which, my mother-in-law couldn't help but look at Hancock." However, if there was no accident, the first thing that caught her eye was the big beautiful legs that flew over. Boom! The mother-in-law was kicked and flew, and she finally stopped after 7 or 8 somersaults. However, in the face of this kind of elder abuse, my mother-in-law is obviously used to it. After all, in the original book, she was thrown from the window on the castle by Hancock, and she was able to exist unscathed. Moreover, as the previous queen of Nine Snake Island, the strength of this old woman is definitely not simple. After finishing all this, Hancock glanced at Chinyu and said with a cold snort, "HMPH, it's time to take a shower and change clothes, and block the entire castle for the concubine." Leaving these words, Salome, the pet snake who was not far away and enjoying the healing rain, swam over quickly, tamed Hancock, and quickly headed towards the castle. Sonia and Marigold, who witnessed this scene, relaxed their tense nerves. Not to mention, whether Chinyu can really wash away the slave mark on their backs. If Chinyu leaked the scene just now, let the female warrior of protecting the country know. That's definitely not a good thing. Now that Hancock can temporarily agree to the transaction, it also makes them relieved. "Mother-in-law, are you all right?" After Sonia helped her in-law up, she turned to look at Chinyu and said, "Sister, I have to take a bath now. As usual, we will arrange for you to wait outside the palace." Clear. Since Hancock became the Empress of Nine Snake Island, every bath was a laborious effort to block the entire palace, in order to prevent the secrets on his back from being leaked. "Hee, don't be so troublesome. I'll just wait in the palace. Your sister will meet me soon and agree to make a deal." Chinyu laughed dryly and said, "Also, prepare me some food." After a series of battles and a day and a night of sailing, this naval warship, because it is stationed in the advanced city prison all the year round, does not need to go out to sea to perform tasks. On such a big ship, there was no food at all except for some fresh water. If it hadn't been for a mistake by Shiryu of the rain and abandoned on the Nine-Snake Island, Chinyu would have had to cut off his legs just like Zappu with bare feet. Sonia hesitated. Hancock blocked the palace to prevent the secret from being leaked, and now Chinyu already knew the secret. Blocking the palace is optional for him. Moreover, from the standpoint of Sonia and Marigold, although it is not clear whether Chinyu can really do it. But in the face of being able to get rid of the perennial nightmare, they are still eager to see that Hancock really agreed to try. Let him in, I'll talk to Hancock alone later. Granny patted the dust on her body, glanced at it, and Chinyu said, if you don't mind, I'm willing to show you the way. Hee, if your mother-in-law welcomes you, of course I would, then I will be troublesome. Chinyu laughed dryly and said, however, I would take the liberty to ask if there is any solid wood nearby. I need to build something. Stronger wood. The mother-in-law couldn't help but startled, but she didn't refuse Chinyu's optional request. She pointed to a black and iron-colored tree trunk beside her, and said, this is our 9 tree trunk. Snake Island's unique 9-layer ironwood is heavier and tougher than the same iron. Our arrows are also made of this thing. I don't know if it can meet your requirements. Ironwood. The soul flame in Chinyu's eyes flashed, and he activated the character template of Ain's Hour Gong. He was clearly subconsciously accustomed to possessing the Emperor's symbolic scepter. Now that he has nothing to do, Chinyu also wants to gain more power by imitating the Bone King in the original book, so it is also very good to get a scepter. While thinking about it, Chinyu approached Tiamu and tapped lightly for a few times. After making a dull sound, he nodded in satisfaction and said, can you lend me the knife? My naginata. Marigold couldn't help but startled, and said, my naginata weighs hundreds of kilograms, and this ironwood requires special means of refining. If you plan to use the naginata alone, I'm afraid it can't be done by cutting it down. Chapter 468 _ Take off your clothes. Mary, give him a try with the naginata. A stinky man won't understand unless he hits the wall, Sonia said in a deep voice. However, I still have to let you know in advance that to cut this iron wood, even Mary needs to use a high-strength armament hockey to do it. In Sonia's eyes, Chinyu's strength is very good. However, the transaction just proposed has proved that he doesn't even have a master for armament hockey. Under such a major premise, it is impossible for Chinyu to cut down a tree stump whose material is comparable to that of iron if he just relies on brute force. Really, that's just for me to try. Chinyu smiled dryly and took the naginata from Marigold. Looking at Tiamu in front of him, the soul flame in his eyes suddenly skyrocketed. The crackling thunder light quickly rolled away from the body. Raiden Thunder Style Chakra Mode. The fight just now took a lot of time to use the body's chakra and crossbody. But to chop down a piece of iron wood, it is still more than excellent. Accompanied by the lightning, the madness poured into the naginata, and the sharp and piercing air vibration sound suddenly sounded. Feeling that naginata seemed unbearable, this huge thunder attribute chakra let out a whimper. Chinyu's big skeleton hands suddenly clenched tightly, and his backhand slashed towards Taimuli. Ultrasonic Raiden Thunder Style Knife. This is Killer Bee Jinchuriki Column Force. Killer Bee has the means. Raiden Thunder Style Chakra on the knife to enhance the sharpness of the knife. Using Raiden Thunder Style to induce high-frequency vibration waves, it has a penetrating power beyond Futon Wind Style. In the original book, Killer Bee used a pencil to pierce the rock directly when he fought the ghost shark. Puff. As soon as the knife came out, the air stirred with large ripples, and the naginata, which was wrapped around the thunder light, slashed down in an instant. Boom. The dull collision sound resounded like thunder, and the big tree surrounded by several people responded with a slash. Sonia and the others who witnessed this scene suddenly shrank their pupils, and their faces were full of disbelief. However, before they could ask any questions, the naginata sword wrapped in thunderlight in Qinyu's hand suddenly stagnated and flew up like a dragon. The huge ironwood fell into Qinyu's hands, like tofu, and its surface was directly cut off. After everyone reacted, the ironwood that several people could embrace, only the heart of the tree more than 1 meter high remained. After Qinyu weighed it for a while, he showed a look of satisfaction. Okay, thank you Naginata, if nothing else, help me prepare a place to stay, I still need to take care of this thing. Now Qinyu was eager to increase his own strength, and imitating an Ain's Olgong scepter was obviously a shortcut. As for what rewards can be obtained, Qinyu has a little more hope. Sonia, he will leave it to me, you go and report to Hancock first. Granny Za retracted the shock on her face and instructed. In Hancock's eyes, the mother-in-law didn't get the slightest respect. However, Sonia and Marigold still respect this elder. To a certain extent, it is still the think tank of their Nine-Snake Island. Sonia, after taking one more look at Qinyu, turned around and left with Marie Groud without further lingering. With the return of Hancock, the city gates of the palace were quickly closed, the guardrails were erected, and the whole country entered the first level of martial law directly. However, the only difference this time was that Sonia and Marigold, who were guarding the door, hurried to the bathroom. Sir, have you started bathing and changing? As soon as Sonia arrived in the bathroom, she saw another figure in the steam-shrouded bath. This has never happened in the past 10 years or so. Every time Hancock bathes and changes clothes, any link is indispensable. In particular, the gates must be guarded by them. However, now things are abnormal, but there must be a demon. Thank you for your hard work, Hancock said suddenly, which immediately flattered Sonia and Marigold. Sister, you are serious. It's just how the guy handled it. He didn't use armament hockey just now, so he easily split the ironwood. In addition to the ability of the animal-type Eudemon's fruit, it seems to know how to control thunder and lightning, which gives people a very mysterious feeling. Sonia explained anxiously. Hancock was silent for a while, and then said, "Let him come to see me. Whether I believe it or not, you should also have the opportunity to try and erase painful memories." In front of outsiders, Hancock is a proud queen, but in the face of the two sisters who depend on each other, there is still another side. Hee, it seems that you are not hard-hearted. Qinyu's indifferent laughter suddenly sounded. The expressions of Hancock and the three suddenly changed drastically. They followed the voice and saw Qinyu, who was still the first to catch the eye. However, Qinyu, who appeared this time, had a scepter wrapped around 7 golden poisonous snakes in his hand. In each bluffing snake mouth, there is a gem in its mouth, giving people a lifelike feeling. They were in a state of uncertainty just now, and they were still talking at the same time. But because of the habit, during the bath, Hancock will deploy observation hockey to conduct all-round vigilance, and the two sisters are no exception. It can be said that Qinyu was still in the room they were monitoring just a moment ago. Now why, in the blink of an eye, they appeared here without knowing it, which was beyond their expectations. Don't be nervous, I'm a timid person, so when you used observation hockey to monitor me, I also used a little trick and kept an eye on your every move. Qinyu smiled and clenched the hand in his hand. Scepter. For the character template of the Bone King, caution, and timidity are the most basic manifestations. Qinyu wants to improve the fidelity of the character template, which is absolutely essential. Seeing Sonia and Marigold with a hint of anger on their faces, Qinyu instead turned his attention to Hancock, who was looming in the steam. Don't be angry, didn't you decide to let me remove the imprint of the Tianlong people? For the doctor, the ketone body is just a passing glance, the beauty is just a pink skeleton, and everything is empty. Qinyu said again with a smile. You all take off your clothes. No, it's better to take off your shirt and reveal the imprint of the dragon slaves. Looking at Sonia and Marigold, the appearances are far from the Empress Hancock. Chinyu really has a kind, and doubts whether the two younger sisters were born by the old king next door, otherwise they would not be very different. Listening to Chinyu's slightly excessive request, if it were normal, they would have already attacked violently. But this time it was a deal, and Chinyu's request became too much. Thinking of this, Sonia and Marigold looked at Hancock after looking at each other. Take it all off. Chapter 469 _ It's over before it even begins. Take it all off. Hancock glanced at Chinyu and said lightly, if you dare to deceive the concubine, no matter where you escape, the concubine will kill you. As he spoke, Hancock looked at Salome, the pet snake not far away. Soon, Salome immediately understood, wearing a silk-thin yukata on his head, and quickly swam towards Hancock. After taking the yukata from Salome, Hancock did not evade at all, and put his back on Chinyu. After all, as a pirate who is used to seeing big waves and is known as the Empress, if you are cautious because of this trivial matter, you will dodge in front of others. This is shameful. After finishing all this, Hancock turned his back to Chinyu and sat on the steps. With a flick of his shoulders, the light gauze yukata on his back slipped off, revealing the imprint of the flying dragon's hoof on his back. The half-exposed scene made Chinyu, who had an unusually calm will after using the Bone King template, also jumped out of negative emotions to clear, and he was able to remain calm. Of course, Chinyu would think that this beautiful scene would be more pleasing to the eye if there were no two meat hills sitting next to Hancock. Why don't you hurry up? Or did you lie to the Empress just now? Hancock said coldly, but Fei Yuhi on his cheeks obviously betrayed her, and now her mind. Chinyu quickly reacted in the process of eliminating the negative, and said with a dry smile, I'm just thinking of a faster and more convenient way to treat you. After all, I believe that you are not used to this attitude. Let me release the fruit ability first. For the so-called treatment method, Chinyu was just trying to cover up, just thinking carefully. In the world of One Piece, this removal surgery may leave scars. But in the face of the medical ninjutsu in Hokage, let alone a small wound, even if the body is broken in two, as long as it doesn't die, it can be connected without leaving the slightest scar. However, facing Chinyu's careful thoughts, they understood that they were attracted by Chinyu's second half of his speech. From the first meeting to now, Chinyu showed them the attitude of the Bone King. Removing the so-called devil fruit ability at the moment made them startled for a while, and then their pupils shrank suddenly. Too young. In their eyes, Chinyu, possessing such powerful fighting methods and negotiating skills, is definitely an old fox who has been in the sea for a long time. However, now Chinyu gave them the feeling that they were 17 or 18 years old, like a teenager next door. Compared with the terrifying skeleton demon posture just now, the gap is too big. Okay, let's start. Chinyu took the lead in coming behind Sonia and Marigold. The most beautiful things, of course, should be reserved for the last to taste. As for the two in front of them, they still closed their eyes, and Shuanglong went out to sea. The sudden scene obviously tensed the nerves of the three Hancocks. For Chinyu's choice, Hancock was stunned at first, but Yuhi's pupils contracted suddenly when Yuhi's lips opened. I saw Chinyu lightly press the backs of Sonia and Marie Groud with both hands, and the light blue medical chakras rushed out quickly, covering the flying dragon hoof marks directly. However, before they could react, the mark of the gorilla Yuhi, under Hancock's astonished gaze, melted like a tide, and disappeared without a trace in an instant. The position of the skin seemed to be bleached, and even Hancock couldn't help rubbing his eyes. Sister, has he started? I feel a little itchy. As the three sisters, Marigold is the largest and the most sturdy. However, in the face of such an occasion, there was an obvious shyness on his face. Sonia on the side didn't speak, but she couldn't help looking at Hancock, and the words that fell in her ears shook their nerves. It's over, it's over. Not, it's over. Maragruder and Sonia looked stagnant. They didn't have time to think about it. They hurried to the full-length mirror to check. When he saw clearly the picture reflected in the mirror, his pupils suddenly contracted. This horse is too fast. In their eyes, it is simply that it is over before it begins. No one would believe it if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. 2. Is it to me? Looking at this scene, even Hancock couldn't help but get excited. For her, the celestial dragon slave mark on her back is a lingering nightmare. Now that it can be eliminated in an instant, that is completely unimaginable. Yeah, Chinyu replied, looking at the jade back that was as smooth as mutton fat and white jade. He took a deep breath, and after stabilizing his mind, he gently put his backhand on it. The smoothness and warmth of the hands made Chinyu frown slightly. However, compared with him, Hancock, who has always claimed to be the Empress, reacted significantly more intensely. I don't know if it was because of excitement or other reasons, and even his body trembled slightly. Looked like a little girl. Yuhi bit Yuhi's lips with a face. Chinyu stabilized his mind again, and the chakra was running, and the blue light lit up. On that day, the slave mark of the dragon man faded quickly at a speed visible to the naked eye. When Chinyu pulled his hand back, it was only 7 or 8 seconds before and after. That's it. Is it all right? Hancock bit Yuhi's lips and muttered. The next moment, the whole person was paralyzed to the ground as if he had lost his strength. The grievances that had accumulated in his eyes over the years turned into hot tears. The slight sobbing sounded, and in that instant, Sonia and Marigold, who looked equally tough, couldn't hold back and burst into tears. Looking at the situation where even the atmosphere changed suddenly, Chinyu touched the tip of his nose helplessly and looked at Hancock. He suddenly remembered something. After leaving the world of Hokage, it seems that the head kill has not been used. Looking at Hancock, the usually proud head is now buried between his knees, sobbing constantly. Chinyu sighed helplessly, rubbed Hancock's head gently with his probing hand, and said, "It's all over, you can wear backless clothes in the future, and you don't need to take a bath, have a good life, it belongs to you girl times." Well, it should be a girl. Abandoning these words, the black mist on Chinyu's body rolled backwards, and soon the template of the Bone King was activated again. At the moment when the portal opened, it disappeared into place out of thin air. Girl. Hancock's expression froze for a while, and when she raised her head, Chinyu was nowhere to be seen. Boy, it looks like you've got things done. I thought that if you entered the bathroom rashly, you would be chased out. Granny Za said with a dry smile. Chinyu rolled his eyes, and the hidden old woman said, "You should be too colored and domineering, now it's time for you to fulfill your promise." Chapter 470 Stay on 9 Snake Island and become a son-in-law. Double color domineering. The mother-in-law was stunned at first, and said, "Boy, are you really joking? You don't even understand double color domineering." In the eyes of mother-in-law, although the time with Chinyu was very short. After hearing about the battles that took place on the coast, and seeing with her own eyes, Chinyu's endless means, relying on her decades of experience across the sea, still couldn't see through the young man in front of her. Hearing these questioning words, Chinyu touched the tip of his nose helplessly. In the world of One Piece, the sea is divided into 3 parts. The first is the 4 major sea areas, the second is the first half of the Great Channel, and the third is the second half of the Great Channel. Among them, in the first half of the Great Channel, once there is a pirate with a reward of over 100 million, it will be called a new star. Once you want to enter the second half of the Great Waterway, the most basic master is not the devil fruit, but the 2-color domineering. Right now, the strength that Chinyu has shown is obviously not something that the pirates in the first half can possess. If the pirates in the second half are roaming, the 2-color domineering should be a must. Really not, otherwise it won't take a lot of trouble, let's make a deal with you. Looking at the questioning mother-in-law who wanted to tear herself apart to see clearly, Chin-yu gave a blank look and explained. Really not. My mother-in-law insisted on asking one more time, and after seeing Chin-yu still nodding, the withered bark-like cheeks gradually loosened, and said, "What a fool, you can't even do this, I don't know where you came from. However, for the sake of helping Hancock and the others, I will tell you the use and concept of two-color domineering." As she said that, Granny put the crutches in her hand aside, her turbid old eyes suddenly condensed, and the whole person's breath was different. It can be said that the old people who can have friendship with the legendary pirates such as Rayleigh and Shachi are definitely not simple people. Domineering is actually a kind of willpower in the human body, and it is similar to the development of the brain, but to control armament hockey and observation hockey, there are two ways. First, through systematic exercise, open the brain's restrictions, and second, open it unexpectedly. The mother-in-law explained in a deep voice. The dry right hand suddenly slid down, and the pitch-black armament hockey spread quickly, covering the arm directly. Gives a metallic feel. This is armament hockey. Next, I'm going to demonstrate observation hockey. Along with Granny's opinion, Chin-yu's mind also formed a systematic cognition of the two-color domineering. Ding dong, congratulations to the host who has acquired the two-color domineering, whether to perform one-click full level immediately. The long-lost system ethereal voice suddenly sounded, making Chin-yu secretly relieved. I just listened to a lecture from my mother-in-law. However, everyone's understanding of domineering is completely different. Chin-yu is still stuck in a half-understanding, and even the clues are not clear. Now that the system makes a move, it can be captured, how can Chin-yu not feel happy? Immediately carry out a one-click full level. Ding dong, please wait a moment, host. Ding dang, congratulations to the host two-color domineering one-button full level success. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the high-level armament hockey usage method Sakura. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced observation hockey method to predict the future. The continuous sound of the system prompts made Chin-yu frown, but he was not surprised. Boy, are you listening attentively? Granny suddenly stepped on Chin-yu's feet. However, before she could fall, Chin-yu pulled back in advance like a prophet. The sudden scene made the mother-in-law froze in shock. Mother-in-law, I learned it. Chin-yu regained his senses with a smile on his face. Just now, Chin-yu did not start observation hockey at the critical moment. But once observation hockey has attained a certain level of attainments, as long as it encounters something that damages itself, observation hockey will issue an early warning in time. Chin-yu just got the full-level observation hockey just now, and he didn't expect it to come in handy so quickly. However, observation hockey also has two huge weaknesses. First, once the speed of the enemy is faster than your early warning speed, even if you can predict the future, you may not be able to react. Second, emotions can easily affect the use of observation hockey. Once absolute calm cannot be maintained, the accuracy of predicting the future will be greatly reduced, or it will fail directly. Have you learned it? Granny's expression froze, and she soon saw Chin-yu. In her deep-set eyes, the flames of her soul suddenly soared, and the pitch-black armament hockey quickly spread across her arms. It made Grandma Za's pupils shrink suddenly. It was the armed color on Chin-yu's arms, which flowed like water. This is Liu Ying, this is the high-level armament hockey. The mother-in-law suddenly came back to her senses and said, You kid, you really pretended to be a pig and eat a tiger from the beginning. It turns out that even the high-level domineering is also a master, and I asked the old man to give it to you. Demonstration, that would make me lose face. Looking at the unhappy mother-in-law, Chin-yu touched the tip of his nose helplessly. He knew that at the system level, it was impossible to explain clearly. He simply avoided the topic and said, Mother-in-law, do you know Conqueror's Haki? Among the three color domineering, Conqueror's Haki is the symbol of the king that is chosen in a million miles. Chinyu was not sure whether he also owned it. Conqueror's Haki. My mother-in-law was stunned for a moment and said, "You kid, are you going to play me again? Conqueror's Haki is a symbol of a born king, but I don't understand it." As for Hancock's Conqueror's Haki, it was trained by that old man Rayleigh. If you want to fool him, go ahead and fool him. However, I want to tell you in advance, that old man is Roger's deputy. For the sake of helping Hancock, I will write you a letter of introduction. As for whether you have Conqueror's Haki, that is you things are up. Abandoning these words, Granny Za picked up the pen and paper on the table, and after writing a letter, she looked nervously at Chinyu and said, "Boy, I still don't believe that you can instantly learn two-color high-level domineering. Tell me, did you deliberately approach Hancock?" Actually, Hancock was originally a good girl. Although she has been in the hands of the Tianlong people for several years, the Tianlong people only simply enslaved and fought for fun. Speaking of which, my mother-in-law lowered her cheeks slightly, coughed dryly, and said, "They don't care about it at all, and I tell you secretly, when I found Hancock, I checked it out. She's still there. Boy, you're lucky, or stay on Nine Snake Island and become a son-in-law. Let these girls with stone heads understand what a man's love is." Listening to this, Chinyu suddenly turned petrified. He never thought that the misunderstanding of learning domineering would evolve to such a level. Not even mentioning that. Chapter 471 Start of 350 million. Kiss the gun. The cold and tender voice echoed suddenly. The pink peach heart that came violently poured out like a machine gun. Chinyu, who witnessed this scene, was helpless. On the island of Nine Snakes, where observation Haki is prevalent, it is simply a wall with ears. At the same time, the Navy headquarters. The huge conference room seemed extremely depressing. Whether it was the general, the lieutenant general and the major general, their eyes were all shocked by the information they brought back from the city university prison on the table. Kazuna, have these news been confirmed? Sengoku's fingers tapped on the table and stopped abruptly, his eyes locked on Kizaru. In Magellan's briefing, it was learned that the dignified General Kizaru was hit by a heavy blow and fell into the sea. Sengoku can't wait to strangle Kizaru to death. However, it is also confirmed from the side that the person who created the prison break this time is not simple. This is the data given by Magellan. The corners of Kizaru's eyes twitched slightly. As soon as the events of the day spread in the Navy headquarters, his face became unbearable. However, in this situation, he still has to bite the bullet and report. According to the calculation, this jailbreak operation involved a total of 6 floors of the Jincheng University prison, and the number of deaths reached 968, most of which were buried in the attack of Uchiha Chinyu. There are a total of 68 people who have successfully escaped from the prison. After the inspection, it was found that there were also prisoners on the 6th floor who were missing. What? As soon as these words fell, the expressions of many admirals in the field changed drastically. Every prisoner who was sent to the 6th floor was brought in by their navy with a lot of effort. Now someone told them that someone on the 6th floor had escaped. It can be said that once these people live in that sea area, they will become a scourge. Silence, give me all the silence. Sengoku patted the conference table heavily and said, "This is the second time since the Golden Lion escaped from the Advanced City 15 years ago. Although that kid is not as famous as the Golden Lion, the number of people who escaped this time is dozens of times that of the Golden Lion. Now the sea outside is already in chaos. If the pirates outside know, you are so rude, then where will the face of our naval headquarters be left?" The awe-inspiring voice echoed in the huge office, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time, making the originally noisy situation suddenly fall into a dead silence. Seeing this scene, Sengoku rubbed his swollen head and said, "Go ahead and focus on saying that someone on the 6th floor has died. Feeling the gazes from all around, Kizaru was a little regretful now, and ran to advance the city to intercept the hero, but now the arrow was on the string and had to send it. After a moment of hesitation, he still spoke. In addition to the 5th floor of the extremely cold hell, the mastermind Uchiha Chinyu, and he conspired with him to betray, and was imprisoned at the entrance of the 6th floor of the infinite hell. The former push city guards Shiryu of the Long Reign. According to Magellan's speculation, the escape of the prisoner on the 6th floor is inseparable from Shiryu of the Reign. The King of Evil, Abaro Pizarro. Mysterious Moon Hunter Carter Rinadipin. Big Wine Basque Chote. World Breaker Bundy Vardy. There are also 2 special prisoners detained in the deepest part of the 6th floor. They are the descendants of the devil, Dagras Barrett. Red Earl, Baroric Redfield. Every name that fell suddenly changed the atmosphere in the field. Especially when he heard the names of Barrett and the Earl of Yuhi, he was even more shocked. If it is said that those in the front are the scourge of one party, then the 2 in the back are completely the existences that can make the times run wild by themselves. It is rumored to be able to match the right hand of One Piece, Barrett of Raleigh of Hades. The Earl of Yuhi who fought against Roger, the Pirate King, and Whitebeard alone. Every harm is absolutely no worse than the Golden Lion that escaped from prison 15 years ago. The above is the list of personnel given by Magellan. Do you have any comments or plans to act? Sengoku looked around the field and spoke again. Knowing how to make amends is a good thing, but how to make amends is worth the headache. However, as soon as these words fell, the huge conference room fell into dead silence again. In such a situation, speaking freely is to hit the gun at the muzzle. Witnessing this scene, Sengoku frowned and shouted in a deep voice, "What's wrong? When you usually ask for credit, don't you go quickly? Now let you think of a way, why don't you talk?" Marshal Sengoku, I can't blame them. Crane said suddenly, as the Naval General Staff, she has a certain right to speak. Except for Barrett and Field, each of these escaped prisoners has the strength not inferior to the Lieutenant General, or even surpasses the Lieutenant General, so I suggest that in addition to the 3 generals leading the pursuit, 2 lieutenants can also be given the lead. A hunting team will be formed, not only to complement each other in battle, but also to retreat in time in case of an accident during the battle. Quote. As for the mastermind of this jailbreak incident, I hope you can raise the reward from 230 million to 350 million, Marshal, so that others can pay enough attention. 350 million. The expressions of many admirals present suddenly changed. In the second half of the Great Waterway, commonly known as the lawless place of the New World, there are many pirates with a reward of over 100 million. But 350 million, that's all famous existences. This kind of bounty amount, even if it is placed in the Chiwu Sea, few people can match it. I know you should be surprised why an unknown newcomer has a bounty of 350 million at the beginning, but don't forget, he is the mastermind who escaped from the city. If you put you in the city, who can escape? His face sank and he warned. It's not that I look down on everyone here, but I just want you to know that whoever looks down on it will lose his life in the next pursuit mission. The awe-inspiring words fell, and except for the 3 generals and a few lieutenant generals, the faces of the major generals turned blue. However, in the face of the Crane's words, there is no way to refute it. Okay, I have already said what I want to say. Sengoku knocked on the table and said, as for raising the reward to 350 million, I have no opinion. Of course, this time, the emergency meeting is also for the vote of all members. If you don't agree, you can raise your hand and say your thoughts at the same time. However, as Sengoku's words faded, the room remained silent. Following that, the Navy headquarters issued an instruction, and a piece of explosive news quickly spread on the sea. Starting with a reward of 350 million, the mastermind of the plan to advance the city's escape, Uchiha Chinyu's name, like a hurricane, spread throughout the sea. Chapter 472 Body marks are not afraid of lice. 3 days later, 9 Snake Island entered the sea. 2 huge sea snakes raised their slender necks, Yuhi the orangutan stuck out his tongue, and dragged the pirate ship representing the honor of the 9 snakes out to sea. Lord Hancock, you are going to go to sea again soon. It seems that there are only 3 days before the last expedition. By the way, you were sick in bed a few days ago. This time, Lord Hancock is planning to send away the man who entered the 9 Snake Island by mistake not long ago. Man, is it the kind of man with 3 legs in the legend? Did you take a peek at it? Is it true? Of course I've seen it before. This is a rare opportunity. The length of a man's 3rd leg is simply tisk tisk tisk. A series of voices sounded at the mouth of the sea, and it suddenly became very lively. Some female warriors who had never seen a man climbed to the heights one after another, wanting to see the strangeness of the man's 3rd leg. Feeling this different atmosphere, Chin Yu, who was standing on the deck, couldn't help but cough. Ha ha, little devil, to be honest, can this 3rd leg make me happy to see it? The grandmother suddenly appeared and said with a big laugh. Chin Yu rolled his eyes helplessly, this disrespectful guy, and said, when I see Rayleigh, I will bring you a message saying that you miss his 3rd leg, he should be able to swim. Looking for you. Riley. The mother-in-law's expression became stagnant, and then she shouted angrily, you brat, dare to make fun of the old lady. When the old lady saw this thing, you didn't know that you were in that corner. If you dared to talk to Riley saying these words, you don't want me to help you trick Hancock into marrying. However, as soon as the cruel words fell, Hancock's cold voice sounded behind him. Someone, throw her out for me to feed the sea kings. Sister, this. Throw me. As Hancock's order fell, the scene instantly became chaotic. Of course, they wouldn't really throw her mother-in-law into it to feed the sea kings, but they just planned to let her dangle less in front of Hancock. Otherwise, with Hancock's temperament, a few human sculptures would be created by accident. Oh no. Under this slapstick, the 9 snake pirates quickly left the port under the pull of the 2 sea snakes. 9 Snake Island is located in the windless zone, and ordinary pirate ships cannot sail at all except through external forces. Moreover, if some are not familiar with this sea area, or have the means to effectively deter the sea kings that awaited them all shipwrecked. My concubine can only take you out of the windless belt. If you have other places to go, you can only rely on yourself for the rest of the journey. Hancock stood on the bow and said coldly. Chin Yu was not surprised by this. After all, the 9 snake pirates are famous, but they are hostile to men, if they are seen by outsiders. The dignified female Emperor Hancock was actually in the same boat as the man, and it felt not much different from the same bed. Don't worry, you can show me if there are any boats along the way, I'll just grab one. Chin Yu said indifferently. On the island of 9 snakes, he has already made a record hour hand to the Chambord Islands. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if there is no ship, he can still rely on the Bone King's flying technique to support him for a while. Don't worry, finding prey is our 9 snakes' specialty, and the boat will definitely be able to help you find it. Hancock turned around and left after dropping those words. Soon after the order fell, the female soldiers of the 9 snake pirates on the boat started to move. In 9 Snake Island, although it can be self-sufficient, many resources are obtained by looting merchant ships along the way. And Hancock's battle to become famous, as well as the invitation of Chiwahai, also came from the looting of an expedition. However, every time she was looted, because of the title of Shichibukai, she was spared the pursuit from the Navy headquarters afterwards. Lord Hancock, there are 2 ships ahead. Shall we go over and take a look? A female soldier hurried over. Hancock raised his eyebrows and said, what ship? It seems to be a large merchant ship that transports gold from the sky. I'm afraid there will be a local Navy escort. The female soldier hesitated for a moment. Heavenly gold, that is the protection fee paid to the world government every year by the member countries. These protection fees will be personally escorted by some local navies. Before he became famous, Hancock sacked merchant ships carrying the heavenly gold. But now she is already in the Chihuahua Sea, and the merchant ships that transport the gold in the sky are obviously mentioned in the Chihuahua Agreement. After all, the gold in the sky is also the face of the Tianlong people, in case something goes wrong. That all damages the dignity of the Tianlong people. Dragon people. Hancock heard the words, his pretty face turned pale, and his body trembled. This is from the fear of the past. However, before Hancock could continue to speak, a large hand directly covered her head and rubbed it lightly. The sudden scene stunned everyone in the field. In their eyes, Hancock is an unattainable empress who can only look up. However, being so lightly offended now completely subverts their cognition. Okay, you have eaten and drank for nothing on Nine Snake Island for several days. Before leaving, I will give you a sigh of relief. Chinyu smiled warmly, withdrew his hand and looked at the huge merchant ship in the distance, saying, the merchant ships of the Tianlong people can set off my status as the supreme and supreme. The next time we meet, I will resound through every corner of this sea, goodbye. Abandoning these words, the character template of the Bone King was instantly activated. Of endless magical power, the black mist rolled back like a tide, taking the form of Ain's Ulgaun. However, this time, he was holding a golden scepter and wearing a white skeleton posture. Second-order magic flying. The voice suddenly changed from soft to indifferent. The cloak automatically fell without wind, and the whole person quickly lifted into the air. Boy, are you crazy? That's the merchant ship of the Tianlong people. If you do this, you will be stared at by the Navy headquarters for the rest of your life. Granny Za hurriedly rushed out from the corner. Hancock, stop him quickly. I'm not afraid of lice. I think about the Navy headquarters, and I should miss me now. Chinyu's deep-set eyes, the flames of his soul flickered, and when he left these words, he turned into an afterimage and transported it far away. The merchant ships of heavenly gold swept away violently. Witnessing this scene, the mother-in-law looked anxious and said, Hancock. Throw her down for me. Hancock regained his senses, stood up slowly, and said, Dare to offend your concubine, I hope you can live until the next time we meet. However, as soon as these words fell, Sonia's voice came quickly from the stern. Sister, hurry up and look at the reports of these 3 days. Chapter 473 _ Look down on yourself or look down on me. Newspaper. Hancock was startled at first. Even the mother-in-law who had been dragged away stopped and looked at Sonia subconsciously. However, when he saw the front page of the newspaper unfolding in Sonia's hand, with the skeleton bounty on it, his pupils suddenly shrank. Hang, there is a reward of 350 million, what is the origin of that man? A female warrior stammered. Faced with this questioning, the moment everyone's nerves were tense, they all looked at Sonia. 3 days ago, as a subordinate of the world government, the advancing city grand prison, which stood side by side with the naval headquarters and judicial island, had the largest escape incident in history, and the chaos even affected the infinite hell known as the 6th floor. The number of people is unknown, but there are definitely not a few prisoners who escaped. For the first time, Sonia felt that her tongue was not easy to speak. However, when I thought about the horror content that was published in the newspaper, I still bit Kiba and continued. And because of this, the mastermind of this escape incident is Uchiha Chinyu, who appeared on our 9th Snake Island and is known to the outside world as the Great Skeleton Demon. The awe-inspiring voice, at this moment, seemed to be filled with magical sounds, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time. Everyone's eyes swept around and locked on the figure swept away by the Tianlongren merchant ship, their faces were full of disbelief. Haha, concubine has already said that he is not a simple person. Regarding his appearance on 9 Snake Island, all rumors are strictly prohibited. Next time we meet, concubine will find the place in person. Hancock chuckled lightly, in a single voice. Sail, return to the windless belt, we will look for other prey. Accompanied by the ships of the 9 snake pirates. On the huge merchant ship carrying gold from the sky, a group of admirals wearing bone masks had just received the telescope. Lieutenant General Bastille, the 9 snake pirates ship that appeared just now has turned around and left. The adjutant opened his mouth to report. Immediately, the Navy soldiers who were leaning on the railing all around showed a disappointed expression. As a Navy, I know a little about the rumors that are rumored at sea. But for male creatures, the most beautiful woman at sea, the female Emperor Hancock, is so breathtaking that many people are willing to take the risk of death to see it. Seeing that the adjutant beside him was also disappointed, Bastille snorted coldly and said, "Why is everyone showing this expression? Isn't that expected? This time, we are escorting the gold from the sky sent by the countries of the East China Sea. The Empress is a member of the Chihuahua, but no one dares to offend the authority of the Tianlong people." Having said this, the adjutant immediately cheered up and said, "Lieutenant General Bastius, you are right, this is a fat mistake. As long as we complete this trip, the rewards of the world's nobles can be worth as much as ours annual salary." Quote. What's more, even if a guy with short eyes really came to commit the crime, once he heard the name of Lieutenant General Bastille, he would have fled with his tail between his tails, so we still need to thank Lieutenant General Bastille. What a job we won. Yes, thank you Lieutenant General Bastius. With Lieutenant General Bastius here, even if the 4th Emperor comes, they will give 2 points of thin noodles. The huge deck suddenly became lively. In the face of this bragging, the bragging force made it fly, and a smile appeared on Bastille's serious cheeks. However, as soon as this arc appeared, an indifferent voice descended from the sky. "Hee, it looks like I'm not here at the right time. However, I have no intention of running away with my tail between my legs, and I have no tail, so I can only tell you one very unfortunate thing. This ship, I, Ains Ooal Gong, want it." The small voice, at this moment, with the taste of directly hitting the soul, shook everyone's nerves. The adjutant's face sank, and Huo Ran raised his head and shouted angrily, who is so arrogant, dare to speak mad?" The ruthless words were spit out, but after seeing the black shadow in the sky, the last word was swallowed back by the adjutant. Immediately, he stammered and said, "Yes, it's Uchiha Chinyu, the great skeleton demon. How could he appear here? Skull demon, isn't that pushing the city to escape and offering a reward of 350 million to the mastermind of the prison escape? He wouldn't have the idea of making gold in the sky, this is something of the Tianlong people." The huge deck suddenly became flustered. No one would have imagined that the fat poor who came out on a rare trip would meet the recent push into the city prison escape. Is there a reward of 350 million? The handwriting of your naval headquarters is really surprising. Chinyu was also a little surprised, but after changing his voice, he said again indifferently, "However, you made a mistake. The matter, I am the supreme being of the great tomb of Nazareth, Ains Gaon, the ruler of terror. Now, I'll give you 2 choices, 1, hand over this ship, and 2, fight to the death, I'll give you 30 seconds to think." The indifferent words swept through the audience, causing everyone's complexion to change dramatically, even Bastius was no exception. "Ding dong, tell the host, get the fidelity of the character template improved, the current fidelity is 40%. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the 7th order magic, the root element of fire." The system's ethereal reminder sounded in Chinyu's mind, causing him to raise his brows. If I remember correctly, this 7th order fire root element, once activated, will summon a high-level fire element with a level of 85. Not only that, it has high attack fire attribute magic, but also has an immortal body in the face of ordinary attacks. As long as you still have a magic link and you don't encounter the same level of water attribute magic, this high-level fire element will not disappear. Facing the sudden reward, Chinyu also left the space of consciousness after browsing for a while, looked at Bastiu not far away, and said, "The time is up, tell us your choice, war or surrender." The indifferent words sounded again. However, this time, it gave them a sense of death. In the face of the identity of the mastermind who has a terrifying appearance and escaped from the prison in the advancing city, if they are not afraid, this is absolutely impossible. For a time, everyone's eyes were locked on Bastia's body. Facing the prisoners with a reward of 350 million, it seems that only the title of Lieutenant General can give them a sense of security. "I want to duel with you alone. If you win, I will give you the boat, but if you lose, we will leave immediately." Bastius raised his head suddenly, met Chinyu's gaze, and said in a deep voice, "I, Bastius, will definitely defeat you even if I bet on the name of the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters." Quote, "You challenged me." Chinyu was slightly surprised, and shook his head with a sneer at random, saying, "However, you think too highly of yourself, or you underestimate me. With your title of Lieutenant General, it is not worthy of me. Shoot." Chapter 474 Kings are not mediocre. In addition to indifference, the cold voice was not mixed with other emotional colors. However, it seems a bit annoying when it falls in the ears of others. The dignified Lieutenant General of the Navy headquarters was so despised by others that his face was obviously unable to hold back. "You bastard, you dare to despise me. I will see today, what ability do you have to stop my shark-slashing sword?" Bastiu's face sank, and he roared in anger. "You really want to fight?" Chinyu's dimly lit eyes turned in vain. The dangling body quietly landed on the guardrail and said, "Since you want to humiliate yourself, then I will fulfill you. However, your opponent is my servant. Come out, Roots Fire Elemental Spirit." When the violent magic power, like a frenzy, exploded in Chinyu's body instantly. A pair of deep-set eyes, and under the fast-beating soul flame, there is a magic circle of the gorilla Yuhi, which quickly blooms under his feet. The fiery wave of air rolled back in a rolling gesture, and an indescribable depressing aura filled the air. The fire element that was endlessly floating in the void was quickly extracted. In an instant, it turned into a high elf with a height of 7 or 8 meters and wearing a flame coat. The blazing flames, even the deck that had been burned as a fireproof layer, also squeaked. This is still a high-level elemental elf. Under the order of Uchiha Chinyu, the flame was deliberately controlled to be released, so that it did not burn instantly. What the hell is going on here? The expressions of the people present suddenly changed drastically. Even Bastius is no exception. He had already learned about the skeleton demon, which could summon zombie-like undead monsters out of thin air. But I never thought that this kind of monster would be created, with flames all over its body, and it exudes such a huge and depressing aura. "Lieutenant General Bastiu, what should we do?" The adjutant was the first to lose his breath. This method in front of them is beyond their cognition. Feeling the gazes cast from all around, Bastiu couldn't help clenching the huge shark-slashing knife measuring 1.2 meters in both hands. His face sank, and he shouted sharply, "It's just a mere way to cover your eyes. The goal is to kill the skeleton demon. This kind of small thing, I can solve it with one knife." The awe-inspiring words came out. Bastiu clenched his hands and fingers suddenly, and the momentum of the whole person was like a sharp blade out of a sheath. The next moment, when Huo Ran raised his head to face the high-level fire element, the whole person disappeared into place out of thin air. Appeared again, already one step ahead, came to the front of the high fire element. Looking at the demented fire element, who couldn't react at all, Bastiu showed a playful smile on his face. "Shave. Call out." With his ghostly steps, Bastius once again disappeared out of thin air. Momi's wonderful operation made people stunned in shock. When he reacted, Bastiu had already taken the lead and appeared behind Chinyu. HMPH, the truth that a soldier never tires of deceit. Isn't it possible that no one has taught you that, rather than dealing with these monsters that waste time, it's better to capture your king faster? Bastiu laughed teasingly. The muscles of both hands bulged like a rock, and the huge force poured down like a tide, and suddenly fell down. Shark-cutting stunt ripper. Boom. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves, and all the Navy soldiers showed ecstasy on their faces. After all, in their eyes, Chinyu and the fire elemental elf were like big fools, as if they couldn't react, and stood in place. If this knife is really solid, it will definitely be able to take off the head of the great skeleton demon. When the thunder-like metal collision sound resounded suddenly, causing a violent wave of air to roll back. The specially protected deck beneath his feet was also overwhelmed and burst open with a sound. However, in the face of all this, the 2-meter-high skeleton demon in front of him was like a mountain, motionless, and fell into Bastiu's eyes, causing his pupils to shrink involuntarily, and his eye sockets almost split. With this knife, he can easily cut even the Sea Kings. It's very good to catch the thief first, but you have forgotten one thing, the king is not mediocre. The cold voice came out. The moment Huo Ran turned around, the exposed skeleton body was dyed pitch black at this moment. Armament hockey, which were as black as ink, circulated around him like a poisonous snake. This is the whole body armament hockey. Bastiu's face suddenly changed drastically. There was no time to think about it, and he quickly pulled away and quickly retreated. However, as soon as the footsteps started, the words that fell in his ears tightened his nerves. You guessed it right, as a reward, let me see, Lieutenant General of the Navy Headquarters, what qualifications are there to challenge the majesty of the king? Chinyu said indifferently, hesitating. The black ink-like skeleton's right hand, under the entanglement of the flowing cherry blossoms, is even more splashed with endless thunder. If you don't make a move, it's already a killing move. This is Chin-Yu's behavior. Dragon Claw Hand, Thunder Dragon's Breath. Boom. The big black skeleton hand, with a sprint like lightning, was directly buckled on Bastiu's cheek. The next moment, before he could react, the 5 fingers of Skull's big hand suddenly clenched tightly. Boom. The endless thunder light, like a rage, exploded in an instant. Under the crackling arc of thunder, Bastius was enveloped in it in an instant. The seemingly indestructible bone mask shattered. Before Bastiu could react, his stout, ox-like body was lifted up like a baby. The next moment, it suddenly slammed down on the deck. Raiden Thunder Style Heavy Storm. Boom. The thunder light was like a note, and it hit the deck in an instant. The seemingly indestructible deck, at this moment, cracked like a piece of paper, the violent attack posture. It couldn't be stopped at all, and it quickly spread around. The huge merchant ship tilted at this moment. The violent scene suddenly awakened the Navy soldier who had fallen into a trance. However, the first person to meet them was the icy gaze that beat the soul flame. Okay, the person in the way has been resolved, Chin-Yu said indifferently. However, fortunately, I am short of sailors now, so your lives can be guaranteed for the time being. Of course, you can also choose to jump into the sea and play with the Sea Kings, but don't be as stupid as the so-called Lieutenant General, thinking that the dignity of the king can be offended at will, otherwise there will be no exceptions in the end. Having said that, Chin-Yu slammed the scepter heavily on the deck. Immediately, he shouted in a cold voice, "Tell me now, do you intend to surrender to the supreme being of the great tomb of Nazareth, Ains Ooal Gong, or die?" Chapter 475 _ Navy Rookie. We surrender. Bastiu's voice suddenly came from the deep pit on the deck of the ship. Soon, a figure with blood on his face, black smoke all over his body, and a little charred figure climbed out of the deep pit. Lieutenant General Bastiu. The adjutant's expression changed suddenly. However, before he could finish speaking, he was stopped by Bastius' probe. "Don't you even listen to my orders, go and repair the ship immediately." The awe-inspiring words came out, with an unmistakable taste. Before the group of Navy soldiers could react, they saw Bastius turn around and said respectfully, Supreme, please state your destination. After we repair the ship, we will set sail immediately." Seeing Bastiu's attitude changing 360 degrees, Chinyu certainly knew what his plans were. However, what Chinyu has to do now is to increase the turmoil in this world. Only in this way can you get more turmoil points and quickly liberate your own power. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for getting 1,000 turbulence points. The current balance is 1,003 points. Before the next time, the random unlock limit needs another 1,000 points. The ethereal voice of the system suddenly sounded. Seeing this scene, Chinyu was speechless. What this horse is trying to do. Moreover, the required turbulence points soared to 2,000 points in an instant. The food appearance of this system is too ugly. Supreme, can your flame monster be temporarily withdrawn? Bastius said cautiously. Chinyu withdrew from the space of consciousness, looking at the elf of the root of fire, which was of no use. The soul flame in his eyes flickered a little, and then disappeared out of thin air with a wave of his hand. Watching the high-level fire element disappear in front of his eyes, leaving behind a deck that was so severely burned that it almost burned through, Bastiu's cheeks couldn't help twitching. Okay, next, before I set a new sailing goal, continue to follow the original route. I wish you a happy journey. Chinyu turned around and walked to the cabin after leaving these words. The battle just now did not consume much of his strength. But in the face of this sea full of unknowns, he still needs to maintain his peak state at all times. Moreover, he needs to figure out one thing, and at the same time prepare for the next, tossing huge storm. Looking at Chinyu's back and disappearing from sight, the adjutant's expression couldn't help but stagnate, and he stammered, Is he a fool? He detained us, and even the phone bug was not confiscated, is it not afraid? Are we tipping off? Snapped. However, as soon as these words were spit out, Bastius's slap came on the face. Shut up, no matter what his plans are, what we have to do now is to try our best to save our lives. Bastius snorted coldly and said, at the same time, regardless of his intentions, he lost the transporter of gold in the sky. Merchant ship, we are already a felony, now is a good opportunity for us to make a contribution to the crime, hurry up and give me the phone bug. Quote. As soon as these words fell, the expressions of the Navy soldiers present froze, and they instantly understood the seriousness of the matter. Losing the things of the Tianlong people, with the urine of the world's nobles, they are definitely a dead end. Right now is undoubtedly the only way to survive. Navy headquarters, in the marshal's office. Looking at the thick stack of files on the table, Sengoku felt his head swell a bit. During this time, dozens of prisoners escaped from the city due to the fall of the prison. Although Sengoku had immediately ordered the three generals to pursue it separately, and also asked many lieutenants to join forces to deal with it. However, looking at the pursuit order issued by the world government, his brain is still tingling. Cap, can't you eat less donuts and send me a boat? Sengoku rolled his eyes helplessly. Still on the sofa, Carp, who was leisurely eating donuts, almost wanted to rush go up and strangle him. At present, a large number of fugitives have escaped from the advancing city, and the forces that the entire naval headquarters can send are working. Even his dignified admiral had a headache. Only Carp could still sit here and enjoy himself. Che, you still have a headache about the whereabouts of Uchiha Chinyu, the mastermind of the escaped prisoner. The ocean is so big that even if I want to find it, I am powerless. Garp swallowed the donut and took out his nose. You don't forget, I have asked you for a vacation not long ago to go back and visit my precious grandson. According to the calculation of time, that guy should also be qualified to come to the Navy headquarters to be a brigadier general. During this period of time, the old guy Zephyr has been semi-retired. The new generation he has cultivated is not as good as the next generation. It seems that it is still up to me to revive the glory of the Navy headquarters. Your grandson. Sengoku couldn't help but startled for a moment, and then said in a sullen voice, Cap, don't forget the rules of the Navy headquarters, how many newcomers are watching the position of Brigadier General, and you will take your grandson as soon as you speak. To get the position of Brigadier General, I am afraid it will be difficult to convince the public. Besides, if you let that guy from Zephyr hear you, he'll have to strangle you. Don't forget what happened this time around, and among the newcomers, stationed at the mouth of the East China Sea, Roger Town, where One Piece goer D. Roger was born, is a newcomer known as Smoke Smog, but one pirate ghost is worried. Once where the East China Sea pirates are, they want to enter the Great Waterway to supply in advance, but 90% cannot escape. Sengoku pulled out a stack of Admiral's documents and said, this Heijiantina, who is in the same class as Smog, is even more powerful, and has a bit of a Peach Rabbit style. Also, this year's accident, who survived by virtue of his own strength, the newcomer Ain who has the fruit of superhuman regression, and the newcomer Bins, who has the fruit of superhuman flourishing. Once they grow up, they will be able to stand up to half the sky of naval justice. So, even if your grandson comes, you have to start with low-level soldiers. Cheng's voice echoed in the office. However, in the face of Sengoku's bitter conscience's persuasion, Carp took out his nostrils and blasted the huge booger, and said, no, the big deal is that after I bring that kid, I will challenge the brigadier generals one by one, all of them. After the fight, who still has grievances, didn't we do the same at that time? Quote. Seeing that the oil and salt were not getting in, and thinking about Carp back then, Sengoku reluctantly rubbed his swollen head. In the era of the great pirates, there were many strong men, and the strong men of the Navy were replaced too quickly. Therefore, there are not as many rules as there are now, and most of the time, fists talk about things. But it is precisely because of this reason that the naval headquarters is too chaotic, and many generals have defected. In the end, after Sengoku became a general, this rule was abolished and the so-called military merit system was implemented. Right now, if Garp was allowed to pick up his so-called grandson and come to the Navy headquarters to toss, it would be breaking the rules. Thinking of this, Sengoku couldn't hold back his breath and wanted to say something to stop him. However, a rush of phone bugs sounded first. Chapter 476. The highest alarm sounded. Mosamoxi, I'm Bastius, I ask the marshal to speak directly immediately. The urgent phone bug rang out without warning. Kapuna just had the idea of leaving, but was instantly dispelled, frowned, and said, this Bastiu, didn't he rob me not long ago and ran to the East China Sea to escort the gold in the sky? Why suddenly I passed the superior general and asked to talk to you. Looking at Garp with a confused face, Sengoku couldn't help but glared and said, it's you who wanted to be lazy in the name of escorting the heavenly gold, but you just slept and didn't have time to grab the mission from Bastius. However, he is so anxious to contact him. Could it be that he came across some news about prisoners? As he spoke, Sengoku ignored Carp and connected the phone bug. However, before he could speak, Bastius already spoke first. Marshal Sengoku, something bad happened. The merchant ship carrying the gold in the sky was attacked by Uchiha Chinyu. All of us fell into his hands. Ask for support. What? Sengoku's face changed drastically, and he couldn't help standing up. If Tiantianjin was attacked, he might not be so excited. But now the mastermind of the prison escape from the city, who has been searching hard but could not be found, finally appeared. Haha, it seems that the gold was robbed in the sky, but it is a great good thing. Hurry up and report the coordinates to Sengoku. He is so anxious that his head is smoking. Karp pouted his nostrils and laughed. I also really want to see who this little devil is, who can toss more than a golden lion. As the golden robbery in the sky good. Bastiou's face suddenly became bitter, which was related to the lives of hundreds of people in their entire ship. Now to Karp's mouth, it has turned into a good thing, and the gap is too big. Cap, shut up. Sengoku glared at me and said, Bastiou, don't be nervous, this time the gold in the sky was robbed, it seems that the Tianlong people will help you solve it, and you can find Uchiha Chinyu's whereabouts, on the contrary, is a great achievement. Now please calm down and tell me the whole process, and why you still have a phone bug in your hand to contact me, and where is Uchiha Chinyu's destination? Sengoku, who is known as the Admiral of the Navy, raised many questions in an instant. After all, in his eyes, no matter what reason Bastius had, he was able to connect with him, and this situation was racing against time. Bastiou heard the words, and after a brief pause for 7 or 8 seconds, he hurriedly opened his mouth. With Sengoku's assurance, he was not worried about the Tianlongren's reckoning. Not long ago, when we left the Windless Belt and returned to the Holy Land Mary Joa, we encountered a big skeleton demon who fell from the sky. Afterwards, we also had a short fight. With a series of hurried voices, Sengoku's expression became more and more gloomy. When Bastiou finished the last word, he immediately said, You mean, Uchiha Chinyu, in addition to being able to create zombie-like monsters, is it possible to create flame-type creatures? Moreover, in the last meeting, Kizaru mentioned very precisely that Uchiha Chinyu did not use armament hockey, and according to Magellan's report, he did not find it. Right now, he suddenly displays a high-level Liu Ying, defeating you instantly, and controlling the power of thunder. There are only two possibilities. First, he has always been clumsy and likes to pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger. Second, he has superb learning ability. In just a few days, not only learned armament hockey, but also mastered high-level domineering. Quote. Speaking of this, Sengoku's cheeks became more solemn, and said, If it is one, it proves that this Uchiha Chinyu is scheming, and it is also consistent with the identity of the mastermind of the prison escape incident in the city. If it is the second, in a short period of time, in a few days, learn armament hockey, then this person must not stay outside, and he must be captured as soon as possible. Quote. With Sengoku's analysis, even Karp forgot to keep picking his nostrils. As the developer of the 6 forms of taijutsu, Garp's physique talent is very high, and armament hockey's attainments have long been unfathomable. It can be said that there is no problem in breaking a mountain with one punch. However, it is precisely for this reason that he is more aware that armament hockey can be honed to a high level in a short period of time. That means that this Uchiha Chinyu can no longer be measured by genius. The word enchanting might be the best noun. Okay, you don't have to be nervous, this is just my speculation, and what Uchiha Chinyu is doing now, and his strength are all within the controllable range, compared with those tricky Chiwahai and the 4 emperors. Before we don't have our own power, we are still babies, so what we have to do is to kill them in advance. Sengoku said in a deep voice. As soon as these words fell, Bastiou quickly reacted and said anxiously, Marshal Sengoku is right, he is only alone now, as long as we gather the strength of our navy, he can crush it casually. It's just that the order he gave now is to let us continue to the Holy Land Mary Joa. We have no way of knowing the exact location and target, and this phone bug, he should have specially reserved it for us to inform us. Hearing this, Sengoku couldn't help but nodded, frowning slightly, and said, I am afraid that he is provoking our navy by doing this, but this is exactly what we want. The more arrogant that guy is, the more we can take the initiative as soon as possible. What you need to do now is to obey him temporarily, and at the same time, send the trend back to us at all times. Next, since that guy intends to provoke our Navy headquarters, then I will let him see the true strength of our Navy. Chang's voice was mixed with an unquestionable taste. After a few more greetings, Sengoku hung up the phone bug. Regardless of whether the other party does it intentionally or not, reducing the call time is undoubtedly the most likely to reduce the chance of change. Sengoku, you should have a plan, right? Garp said suddenly. Sengoku put down the phone bug in his hand, looked at Garp, who rarely showed interest, and said, "Hee, it seems that you are also interested, trying to find out the foundation of this guy. Since the last time, I think it was when Roger was alive. However, this time, for the sake of prudence, I still plan to bring Akainu and Kizaru back. As for Qingzi, who went to the East China Sea to chase Walder, the distance is too long. With his temper, he will not be able to come back for a while. It's just that with Akainu and Kizaru around, no matter which target he chooses, it's enough to capture him alive. To be alone, to dare to take the initiative to provoke our naval headquarters, this is impatient." Speaking of which, Sengoku picked up another golden phone bug, and after pressing the Yuhi-colored button, a rush of summoning sirens spread throughout the Navy headquarters. Was originally running to ultimate stopped in an instant, showing a shocked expression. The last recorded alarm sounded was 15 years ago, when the Golden Lion attacked Marin Vando. Chapter 477, The Experimental Game of 9 Dead Lives. A day later, head to the waterway of the Navy headquarters. 2 merchant ships transporting the gold in the sky are moving fast on the wind. Even the sails of the mast are raised to the top, in order to increase the speed of the ship to ultimate, so that it can reach the naval headquarters as soon as possible. Some of the Navy in charge of the helm, as well as Bastiu, who was standing on the bow with a wound and bloodstain on his face, would take a look at the cabin behind him every once in a while. Deep in the pupils, there is a hint of urgency from time to time. In their eyes, as long as Uchiha Chinyu has not changed his mind, he has arrived at the center of influence of the Navy headquarters. Then, no matter how powerful this skeleton demon is, it is absolutely impossible to fly. At that time, they will also make a huge contribution to the robbery of the gold in the sky this time. Thinking of this, Bastius couldn't help but shouted loudly, "Take the helm and move at full speed. You must return to the Navy headquarters within 2 days." All the Navy soldiers were immediately shocked, although doing so would easily break the sails and masts, and even the keel of the ship would be damaged. However, when they thought of the terrifying strength of the great skeleton demon, their hearts seemed to be tightly clenched by an invisible big hand, and there was an illusion that they could not breathe. However, this excitement just sprouted in their hearts, and the words that fell in their ears shook their nerves. "Stop." The simple 3 words, mixed with the extremely cold taste, drifted out from the cabin. Before everyone could react, he was the first to catch sight of Chinyu, who was holding a scepter and walked out slowly, showing himself as a king of bones. Seeing this sudden scene, while the expressions of the people present changed drastically, Bastius hurried forward and explained, "Lord Ains, we have no other intentions." Meaning, the soul flame in Chinyu's eyes turned in vain and landed on Bastius. "Do you think I'd be interested in your stupid ideas?" Chinyu's current idea is to use the hands of the Navy to increase his influence on the world, thereby causing shocks and gaining more turbulence points. Therefore, he tacitly acquiesced to Bastiu's approach to tipping off. However, how to use this kind of tip-off, in the big net cast by the Navy headquarters, to find a trace of vitality to counter the passengers. This is what Chinyu has to do now. When Bastius heaved a sigh of relief, his face changed. This confident attitude made him even more incomprehensible. In front of him, he was the mastermind behind the plan for the escape from the big underwater prison in the city. A young man called Uchiha Chinyu. And called himself His Excellency Ains Ulgaon. However, in the face of this series of confusions, Bastius hesitated for a while, then bit Kiba and asked, "Your Excellency Ains, are you planning to change the route you are traveling, or do you have any other plans?" In Bastiu's eyes, since the other party clearly knew their little actions in private. Now let them stop the ship, there should be some idea. I want to do an experiment and need your help. The soul flame in Chin Yu's eyes was jumping. With his eyes on the sea, he turned around in vain, and the scepter in his hand suddenly stomped toward the deck. Second level magic, the temptation of succubus. When Yuhi's magic circle quickly bloomed under Chin Yu's feet, and the Navy soldiers who passed by couldn't help but retreat. However, facing the magic circle that passed by in the blink of an eye, they were already covered in it as soon as they moved. An unusually strange smell spread quickly on their bodies. The strange scene made Bastio's face change drastically. Looking at Chin Yu in a hurry, he shouted in a hurry, "You, what have you done to us? What is the experiment you are talking about?" After seeing Chin Yu's extremely bizarre methods with his own eyes, at this juncture, Chin Yu's every move plucked their nerve strings. Hee, please don't worry, this is an experimental game of life and death. Of course, as long as your strength is stronger and your cooperation is more skillful, your chances of survival will also increase. Otherwise, you will cut 90% of your people. It is possible that all of them don't die, it is possible that one remains, or it is possible that they all die. Chin Yu laughed dryly, and under the endless black fog behind him, a specially made skeleton emperor chair appeared behind him. Immediately, under the watchful eyes of the public, the big horse sat down with a golden knife. Facing the astonished eyes of everyone, the scepter in his hand suddenly stomped and said, "The game of the dead now begins." Boom! On the silent sea, the low water waves broke through the sound, and suddenly sounded. One after another, huge bodies rushed out of the sea, casting huge black shadows. Those round eyes turned into the blood-colored orangutan Yuhi, which made people feel horrified. What the hell is going on here? Bastio's face suddenly turned pale. Looking at the sea kings rushing out, the number of them reached 20 in the blink of an eye. If they continue at this level, then there will be a mortal situation waiting for them. Hee, don't try to escape. The light that shone on you just now can stimulate the tyrannical carnivorous nature of these sea kings. No matter where you escape, you will end up dead. Chin Yu played with the scepter in his hand. Therefore, there is only one way in front of you. Under the attack of these sea kings, I will support you for half a day. During this process, I will help you a little bit, at least let my experiment in this game add a little more interest. Now, please Lieutenant General Bastiu, use your name of slashing sharks to the ultimate, or you will end up dead. Having said that, the scepter that Chin Yu was playing with suddenly stomped again, and the simple words were spit out. Start. Roar. The deafening roar exploded like thunder. A fall, completely aroused, the fierceness of these sea kings. The most unacceptable thing for them is that the pink light on their bodies is even worse than before. It was as if he was covered with a layer of light clothing. In the face of the attacking wind, Bastiu suddenly drew out his shark-slashing sword and roared angrily when his face turned pale. Ains Ooal Gong, you devil! All enter the first level combat alert, use the AB battle formation, must persevere, let us go back alive and see our family. Live. Open the cannons and suppress their offensive. The snipers must spot the weak points and kill them with one hit. One after another urgent cries rang out on the huge deck. Looking at this scene, Chin Yu tapped the head of the chair with his white bone finger. Chapter 478 _ There is no mercy in the New World. Roar. The roar of fierce tears burst like thunder. As an iron Jinchuriki column shot towards the merchant ship with an awe-inspiring sound of breaking through the air. The fishy wind, and the sea water, tensed everyone's nerves. The sea king in front of him looks like a giant sea snake with a length of more than 10 meters, but if this blow is really a hit. This special merchant ship that transports gold in the sky will definitely collapse in an instant. Shark crash. The awe-inspiring roar suddenly sounded, and the moment Bastius stomped the ground, he disappeared like a ghost out of thin air. Appeared again, and had come to the sea snake that was attacking. The shark-slashing sword, which was suddenly clenched in both hands, made a stern sound of breaking through the air, and collided head-on with the incoming giant tail. Bang! The giant tail and the shark-slashing knife collided instantly, and the sturdy scales were shattered. Da Peng's blood splashed down, and the thick tail that few people could embrace was cut off at the waist. When the sea snake let out a scream, Bastius slashed again from the air with his backhand. Vacuum slash. Bastius roared again and again. A half-moon slash of 7 or 8 meters instantly tore out the air and slashed on the sea snake's head. PFF'd. The seemingly indestructible scale armor shattered in response, the huge snake head was thrown down, and the blood of the big tent splattered down, dyeing Yuhi's surface. Once he succeeded, his morale, which had been a little low, recovered a little. After Bastius blocked the first shot, the surrounding gunners also fired their artillery. Along with the roar, the attacking Sea Kings were directly repelled. However, in the face of the fierce Sea Kings, these blockades only made their attacks a little stagnant. The next moment, the Sea Kings who rushed behind them directly passed them and launched a more ferocious offensive towards them. Bastius's face changed slightly, and after raising his hand and slashing 4 or 5 vacuum slashes in all directions, he roared anxiously. Second echelon, close hand-to-hand combat. As soon as these words fell, the sturdy Navy soldiers who were hidden in the team came out one after another with heavy weapons. The various Sea Kings attacked by Kanzi roared in unison. Iron block. With the 6 styles together, more than a dozen sturdy Navy soldiers blocked the attack route of the Sea Kings head-on. The next moment, they collided with each other. Bang! The huge impact was vented like a frenzy, giving people the feeling that it was like a train colliding head-on. The deck underfoot not only shattered, but a person flew out like a sandbag. The violent scene obviously caused the already precarious camp to be defeated in an instant. A Sea King may not be something to be afraid of, but when dozens of Sea Kings are attacked like crazy at sea, if there is no strong strength, there is no way to deal with it. Get out of here. Shark-slashing storm slash. As a lieutenant general, Bastius is obviously strong. When he was drinking violently, he clenched the shark-slashing sword tightly in both hands, and it turned like a hurricane. The Sea Kings that were chasing directly encountered the endless wind blade slashes, pouring down on the body's surface like rain hitting bananas. Some of the Sea Kings that could not be avoided were instantly smashed and turned into a blood mist that swept across the sea. Together with the huge deck, it was also covered with blood plasma for a while. Let the stench in the air linger even more. However, it is precisely for this reason that the originally mad Sea King offensive has obviously stagnated. It gave Bastius and a group of Navy soldiers a chance to breathe. Sniffing the pungent bloody smell around him, a trace of resentment appeared on Bastius's face, his eyes turned in vain, and he landed on Qinyu, who was sitting evenly and roaring in a hurry. You devil, what are you going to do? Kill if you want, why are you teasing us like this? Teasing, Qinyu asked indifferently, and immediately laughed dryly. This is a new world. Between soldiers and thieves, apart from life and death, do you have pity on a pirate? One more thing, I am a skeleton, not a devil, although the name of the devil is very good. In order to thank you for pleasing me, please do your duty as an experiment, and I won't let you die easily. Tier 3 Magic Group Healing. Second, Order Magic Orc Madness. Dang dang. The voices of the 2 magic circles sounded, and Yuhi's blue and 2 color rays of light bloomed in an instant, forming 2 magic circles that enveloped the entire merchant ship. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves, and even Bastius's face suddenly turned ashen. After seeing Qinyu's strange methods, causing a large group of Sea Kings to riot. They don't dare to care. However, before they could react, the moment the blue misty rain fell on the body, the injuries on the skin and bones quickly healed. At the same time, a tyrannical force, like a torrent, quickly swept away in the body. The muscles of the whole body are like a rock, being stirred up. Unprecedented abundance of power made Bastille and the others' faces change dramatically, and their eyes locked on Qinyu's body. This is your power. Hee, what is it, what is it not? Just live, there is no mercy in the new world, it will take half a day for you to survive. Qinyu said with a cold smile. I hope to meet you later, and you will still be able to survive. Abandoning these words, Qinyu turned around and disappeared out of thin air. The sudden scene made Bastille's face change slightly. When observation haki quickly swept through, Bastille was stunned in place. Lord Bastille, what happened? Where did the skeleton go? The adjutant's expression changed involuntarily. Didn't you perceive it? He disappeared, not on the boat. Bastille glared back. An absurd idea popped up in his mind. Escape. However, as soon as the idea emerged, Bastius quickly annihilated it in his mind. Not to mention, this time is about whether or not to catch Uchiha Qinyu's lure battle. Just facing the Sea Kings who are eyeing all around, they have no way to retreat. And with these two inexplicable light formations, everyone's injuries and strengths have been improved. Under such circumstances, it is not surprising that it may be able to resist. Thinking of this, Bastio's face flashed a hint of determination, and he shouted sharply, "Don't think about escaping. The method of the skeleton demon is not something we can guess. The only thing we can do now is to attack the Sea Kings. To survive for half a day." Quote. Everyone, listen to me and take turns attacking and defending the camp. The method used by the great skeleton demon just now has the effect of healing. We will try our best to exchange injuries to kill these Sea Kings, although I also really want to kill the great skeleton demon. Thousands of swords have been slashed, but he has a sentence, and he is right, this is the Great Waterway, and there is no mercy in the New World. Chapter 479 _ I'm just clearing. Hey! 20 or 30 nautical miles away, an air-hissing sound suddenly sounded, and a door of light was torn open. Soon, Qinyu stepped out of it, and at the moment when the flames of the soul flowed in his eyes, observation haki rolled back like a frenzy. It should be around here. Found it. Qinyu muttered to himself, and then suddenly turned to look further afield. Soon as his eyes fell, a fiery Jinchuriki column, with a dignified gesture, rose straight into the sky of the sky. The black lead cloud accumulated in the sky, under this blow, rolled back directly, and a big hole was pierced abruptly. Qinyu, who witnessed this scene, did not stop for a moment. With a flick of his figure, his magic power surged, and a portal was torn open again, and he jumped away to the time and space of the island ahead. Boom! The soaring flames shattered the backlogged lead clouds, and in the end, collapsed into the sky in all directions. Above the scorched earth with a radius of 10,000 meters, two panting figures stood opposite each other, their clothes more or less blackened and scorched. However, in the face of this situation, the spirit of the two clearly mentioned ultimate, and the energy was locked on each other's body without any relaxation. Fire Fist Ace, if you're going to challenge your father, you'd better pass me first. The whole body was dark blue, with eyebrows like Shirakumo like Murlocs, and he was the first to speak. The young man opposite to him was a supernova from the East China Sea, the captain of the Spade Pirates, and Fire Fist Ace with a reward of 400 million. Jinping, although you are Chihuahua, but we Captain Ace, but the first person in supernova, you can't stop it. The crew of the Spade Pirates who stood in the distance and cheered, shouted one after another. Looking at the scene that became lively for a moment, Ace, who was full of pockmarks, took off the hat on his head, smiled proudly, and said, Jinping, I didn't expect that I would meet you here. Whitebeard, known as the strongest man, then I will take off his head and let the world know that I, Fire Fist Ace, are the strongest existence. Besides, my subordinates are the best in 100. You might as well join my subordinates and fight against Whitebeard with me. The small voice, as if infused with a magic voice, echoed in the four directions of the sky, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time. Jinping's face sank when he heard the words. Ace, Dad's benevolence is not something you can understand, his solicitation is only for the strong, so I hope you can think about it again, otherwise don't blame me for shooting you. Defeat it, and bring it back to the father. The voice fell, and the atmosphere in the field was inexplicably depressed. Since the negotiation is not right, there is only one result that follows. However, before they could react, an unexpected voice suddenly came from the sky. I said, you are not tired of talking, and I am tired of watching. If you don't fight, then I will. When the faces of the people present changed suddenly, they did not wait for them to look up. A gigantic skeleton shrouded in black cloak and covered in white bones descended from the sky. On the merchant ship carrying the gold from the sky, Chinyu saw signs of fire in the distance from a distance. That's why I temporarily gave up the experiment and ran to join in the fun. It's just that he didn't expect that it was really guessed by him. This is the 5-day honeymoon battle between Fire Fist Ace and Jinping in the original book. Who are you, dare to hinder our head of the duel? Come on, shoot this troublemaker for me. A Spade member who seemed to be not low level, looked at Chinyu who appeared 7 or 8 meters away from them, and shouted first. In the backhand, he took out the musket and suddenly pulled the trigger. However, this scene fell into Jinping's eyes, but it made his pupils shrink suddenly, and he shouted in a hurry, stop, he is not something you can mess with. Bang bang bang. Gunshots rang out suddenly. Dozens of fiery bullets fell on Chinyu's body like pear blossoms in a torrential rain. However, in the face of all this, Chinyu was completely unknown. The huge scepter in his hand was reinserted on the ground. When the crisp sound of the bell rang suddenly, a huge blue magic circle bloomed around Chinyu's body. The next moment, before everyone could react, an indescribable aura descended from the sky. Super magic, sky fall. Boom. The violent light Jinchuriki column swoops down from the sky like a comet. The speed was so fast that it was impossible to react. After I recovered, I hurriedly looked up at the sky, it was already too late. Boom. A thunderous explosion resounded. The blue light Jinchuriki column, with Chinyu as the center, shrouded the huge deserted island. The rocks collapsed, the sand and dust rolled back, and the impact of the air wave directly set off a wave of more than 10 meters, sweeping away around. In an instant, this sea was like entering the end of the world. What is the origin of this lunatic, and why did he sneak attack as soon as he appeared? A flame channel was torn out instantly in the blast of air. Soon Ace and Jinpei were seen flashing out of them. As a natural fruit ability, as long as it is not a special attack method, it will not suffer too much damage. However, before Ace could recover, an icy voice suddenly sounded in the rubble of the explosion. Have you misunderstood? I'm just clearing the field. Chinyu walked out slowly in the blast of the blast with the attitude of a bone king. The soul flames that flickered in those deep-sunk eyes became more and more intense. Madman. This thought flashed through the minds of Ace and Jinpei. Clear the field with a big move. Inflict hatred on those underlings. This undoubtedly exceeded their expectations. When he thought that those subordinates just couldn't react at all, they were swallowed up by the attack, and Aston roared in anger. Okay, very good, I'll let you see how scary I am when I get serious. However, before he could make a move, Jinbei had already stopped him first, and said with a sullen face, don't underestimate the enemy. If I remember correctly, he should have been promoted to the Chinda prison to escape a few days ago, and was called the escape by the Navy headquarters. Mastermind, there is a reward of 350 million skeleton demons. 350 million. Ace was stunned at first, then a trace of disdain flashed on his face, and he shouted angrily. It's only 350 million, and you dare to go wild in front of me. Today I will take your head off. When the voice fell, Ace moved first. Without any bells and whistles, he punched Chinyu in the air. Fire fist. Boom. A low roar of air suddenly sounded. The moment the fiery flame exploded on the fist, it turned into a frenzy of training and rolled towards Chinyu. Chapter 480. The difference is not a reward to measure. Boom. The fiery fire fist, like a cannonball, rolled towards Chinyu head-on. In an instant, he was submerged in it. The explosion caused by the air wave made the flames go straight into the sky. Ace, who witnessed this scene, flashed a murderous intent in his pupils, and in a flash, he rushed into the explosion circle first. Ace, be careful and deceitful, it shouldn't be easy for him to become the mastermind of Jailbreak. Jinping's expression changed, and he hurriedly reminded him. In his eyes, Ace's strength is good, but the only thing lacking is that he is young and vigorous, lacking in judging the gap between the enemy and us. Otherwise, he wouldn't do anything stupid to challenge Whitebeard. HMPH, a guy who was lucky enough to escape from prison, can't even escape the Navy. What ability can he have, and my reward is 50 million higher than his. Ace didn't look back, disdainfully cold with a snort, appeared in front of the flame Jinchuriki column. However, before he could react, the flames soaring to the sky showed a stagnation, those flames created by his fruit ability. What's more, at this moment, the link with him was disconnected. The sudden scene made Ace look stagnant. The next moment, I was the first to catch my eye, a pair of flaming eyes lit up in the sea of fire. A huge sword several meters in size condensed from flames slashed down towards Esri. The unexpected scene made Ace startled at first. Before I could think about it, I hurriedly raised my hands to block. Boom. Huge power, cathartic like a frenzy. With the same attribute, the flaming giant sword could not cause fatal injuries to Ace, but the distance contained in it instantly overturned him and smashed him heavily on the rock formation dozens of meters away. Ace. Jinbei rushed up. As soon as he approached, he saw Ace turning over from the ruins, his face was ashen, and he hurriedly looked at Chinyu. However, the sight of the sight made his pupils shrink a little. What monster is this? The 7 or 8 meter high root of fire element stood in front of Chinyu. Originally, Chinyu, who was in the sea of fire, stood behind him unscathed. The big hand of the bone skeleton clenched the scepter a little and said, "This is some of my little tricks, you can think of it as someone who has the ability to burn fruit just like you. However, before I defeat you, I want to ask a question, has my reputation spread far and wide in this sea? A person who burns fruit like me." Ace's expression froze, and then his face showed a hint of madness, and the endless flames erupted from his body. Like a cannonball, it shot towards Chinyu again. A distance of tens of meters, but in the blink of an eye. As soon as he appeared in front of the element of the root of fire, Ace suddenly pressed his hands in the air. Mirror flame. Boom. The violent fire Jinchuriki column detonates instantly in the hand. At a close distance, it directly penetrated the body of the root element of fire. Yu Wei shot down 100 meters away unabated. Boom. The rock formation collapsed in response to the sound, and the huge impact force caused the hot air waves to roll backwards. However, looking at the fire element that was penetrated in the chest, after a little squirming, it healed again. The height of 7 or 8 meters, under the infusion of flames, was forced to rise again, reaching a posture of 12 or 3 meters, making Ace's expression suddenly white. In his eyes, the monster in front of him not only possesses elemental undead means, but can also absorb his flames and enhance his own strength. If it weren't for the difference in appearance, I'm afraid it's really like what Chinyu said. The fire element in front of me will be another ace. Hee, I said, you can't win it. Chinyu laughed dryly, and in his deep-set eyes, the flame of his soul jumped down and landed on Jinping's body, saying, Trouble, please answer my question. Will you use this to judge whether to kill you? Kill us. Ace was stunned for a moment, and then roared frantically, It's just arrogant, I may not be able to kill it, but as long as the attack is strong enough that the monster can't protect you, then you can only it is certain to die. Quote. Great Flame Ring, Emperor Yan. Ace suddenly raised his right hand, and endless flames quickly emerged in his right hand. Witnessing this scene, Jinping's face suddenly changed drastically, and he shouted anxiously, Ace, hurry up and move away. There are rumors that the guy's speed is as fast as lightning, and he sunk the yellow monkey with one punch, almost burying it in the sea. Quote. As fast as lightning. Ace couldn't help but stunned, and the movements in his hands also showed a slight stagnation. However, before he could react, the indifferent voice that fell in his ear shook his nerves. Another rumor, but I'm faster than lightning. The sound of crackling electric current echoed, and the next moment Chinyu's skeleton stepped forward, and under the endless thunder, he directly entered the Raiden Thunder-style chakra mode. Coupled with the Navy's 6-style shave that I learned not long ago, the speed is completely indescribable in words. Call out. With the sound of breaking the air, Ace just felt a flower in front of him. A huge figure that stabilized his head appeared first in front of him. The pitch-black armament Hokage had already covered his hands, and with the crackling thunderlight, the hands that protruded out were as fast as lightning. Suddenly, Ace's face was clasped. I'm sorry, the difference is not measured by a bounty. For example, you don't even know armament Hokage. The indifferent voice was not mixed with the slightest emotion. Ace just felt his face tighten, and the next moment, his whole body slammed down on the ground like a heavy hammer. Flower Sakura Black Storm Heavy Flow. Boom. A thunderous explosion resounded suddenly. The endless thunder light, mixed with the pitch-black armament Hokage, was like a 9-day thunder, smashing on the rock formations. The huge impact force poured out like a frenzy. The rock formations and the earth collapsed with a bang, and the reversed airwaves overturned the earth with a radius of 1,000 meters. The billowing sand and dust rolled back, and the debris flew horizontally. When Jinping's face changed drastically, he couldn't help but quickly took a few steps back. After the sand and dust subsided a little, Jinbei's hands and fingers suddenly tensed, and armament Hokage quickly turned around before rushing to the center of the attack. However, just after walking half a step, a hurricane centered on the battlefield suddenly rolled up, revealing a large circular pit with a depth of 12 or 3 meters. Immediately, he saw Ace, whose life and death were unknown, and Chinyu, who was standing by the side unscathed. Seeing the outcome of the battle, Jinbei's expression suddenly changed. Just now, he and Ace fought, but he was just holding on to block and delaying time. After all, Whitebeard personally issued the surrender order, and Jinbei did not intend to use armament Hokage to confront Ace. But I never thought that the big skeleton demon in front of him would directly defeat Ace, who is known as the first person in Supernova.